Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's mother-in-law demands he stop using AI. Am I the jerk for using AI around my mother-in-law, even though she hates it? I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I've been into computers pretty much my whole life. I'm not some genius coder or anything like that. I've just always been comfortable with tech. Lately, I've been using ChatGPT for basic stuff, looking things up, emails, asking random questions, that kind of thing. It's basically replaced Google for me. My wife has no issue with it at all. She actually thinks it's cool. It's even settling dumb debates that we have. It's never been a problem between us. The issue is my mother-in-law. She watches a lot of news and keeps seeing stories about AI ruining jobs, messing people up, or being dangerous. Because of that, she's decided AI is bad and shouldn't be used. She's made comments about it before, but I usually just ignore it to avoid drama. A few nights ago, she came over to our place for dinner. My wife made lasagna. Everyone loved it and kept saying how good it was. My wife mentioned that she put some special ingredients in it, cottage cheese and cheddar. That caught me off guard because I didn't think those were traditional lasagna ingredients. I'm not much of a cook though, so I figured I could be wrong. I said something like, "Wait, those go in lasagna?" And she told me, no, they don't traditionally. Out of curiosity, I grabbed my phone and I opened ChatGPT to look up what usually goes in lasagna. I wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong or start anything, I just wanted to check. As soon as she saw it, my mother-in-law completely flipped out. She said she couldn't believe I was using that thing in front of her. She told me I know how she feels about AI and that it makes her feel sick being around it. The whole table got awkward really fast. I didn't want to turn dinner into a fight, so I just put my phone away and I dropped it. I gave my wife a look, but I didn't say anything. We just finished dinner, but the vibe was definitely off after that. Later that night, once her mom was gone, I brought it up to my wife. I told her that if something like that happens again, I really don't want to feel like I have to hide my phone or stop what I'm doing in my own house. I said I wasn't trying to upset her mom, but it felt ridiculous. My wife said I can do whatever I want to, but that I know how her mom is. She also said not to be surprised if her mom flips out again if I use AI around her. So now I'm wondering, would I be the jerk if I refuse to stop using AI in front of my mother-in-law? I'm not trying to provoke her or make a point. I just don't think I should have to censor myself in my own home over something like this. Not the jerk. You were literally just looking up lasagna ingredients in your own house, not summoning Skynet at the dinner table. Your mother-in-law being uncomfortable with AI is her thing, but expecting you to pretend it doesn't exist while you're hosting her is a bit much. You even put your phone away to keep the peace, which is more courtesy than most people would have shown. At some point, her personal hang-ups aren't everyone else's responsibility, especially over something this harmless. Not the jerk. This is one of those situations where someone's fear turns into everyone else's problem. You weren't shoving AI in her face or giving her a lecture. You were checking a recipe like a normal person in 2025. The fact that you put your phone away to keep dinner civil already shows that you were being respectful. Expecting you to tiptoe around a tool you casually use in your own home is just not reasonable. You're the jerk. You knew exactly how your mother-in-law felt about AI, and you still whipped it out at the dinner table and over a lasagna trivia question. This wasn't important, it wasn't urgent, and it definitely wasn't worth making a guest uncomfortable. Being in your own home doesn't mean you get to ignore basic courtesy, especially when the outcome was completely predictable. Update. So this whole thing just kept bouncing around in my head and it wouldn't go away. For a few days, I kept replaying the moment where I put my phone away just to keep my mother-in-law calm, and the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me. It felt like I had backed down even though I didn't actually do anything wrong. So I did what any normal person in 2025 would do, and I asked ChatGPT how I should handle it. I won't paste the entire conversation, but there was one part that really stuck with me, and it really flipped my perspective a bit. This is the part that hit the hardest. Me. I don't want to start drama, but I also don't want to feel like I have to censor myself in my own home. ChatGPT. Your mother-in-law is allowed to feel however she feels about AI. Those feelings belong to her. But you are not here to be liked by her. You're here to be true to yourself, regardless of what she thinks. Emotional maturity is being able to notice patterns in others without losing your grounding or bending to selfish demands. You're not here to shrink or please people out of fear. That's fear, not love. If you give in, you teach her that this is how she can control you, and that only reinforces the behavior. Me. So that's why I shrank? Because I was afraid of her? ChatGPT. Yeah, that's a big part of it. When someone reacts strongly like that, it can trigger a fear response, even if it doesn't feel dramatic in the moment. The fear isn't about the phone or AI. It's about conflict, rejection, or being seen as the bad guy. Shrinking is a way to keep the peace fast, but it usually comes at the cost of your own boundaries. Noticing that pattern is important because once you see it, you get to choose differently instead of reacting on autopilot. Me. Next time it happens, how do I keep myself from going into autopilot and shrinking again? ChatGPT. You slow the moment down. Autopilot only works when everything happens fast and you react instead of choose. When you feel that familiar urge to shrink, that's your cue to pause, breathe, and remind yourself that discomfort will not harm you. Someone else being upset does not mean you're wrong. You ground yourself in what you value and let the reaction pass without trying to fix it. Power comes from staying present while another person is uncomfortable and realizing you can survive that feeling. The moment you stop trying to manage their emotions is the moment you stop giving your power away. Me. But once she starts flipping out again and staring at me, what am I supposed to do? ChatGPT. You do less, not more. You stay calm. You keep your posture relaxed, and you don't rush to explain yourself. You don't argue, justify, or apologize for existing. You can simply say something neutral like, "I'm not trying to upset you," and then let the silence sit. Her reaction is hers to manage, not yours to fix. When you don't match her intensity or scramble to soothe it, the dynamic shifts. Control only works when you hand it over. The moment you stop performing, defending, or shrinking, you quietly take it back. Me. Something feels like it just clicked for me, like this whole thing with my mother-in-law is actually a lesson, not a problem. ChatGPT. That click is awareness. When something shifts from feeling like a problem to feeling like a lesson, you stop being trapped inside it. Your mother-in-law didn't create this moment. She revealed a pattern that was already there. Now you can see where you've been trading your peace for approval and mistaking avoidance for kindness. Lessons stop repeating once they're learned. If you stay grounded and stop shrinking, the situation either changes or loses its power over you. Either way, you grow, and that's the real point of this experience. This conversation really helped me feel so much better about everything, and next time it happens, I know I'll be able to stop letting her control me. Nothing else has happened yet, but I'll update again if anything actually goes down. Final update. It happened. I was outside washing the car the other day while my mother-in-law was over visiting my wife. At some point, I went inside to ask my wife if she had seen the wax because I couldn't find it anywhere in the garage. She told me she had moved it to a different shelf and also mentioned that it was too cold outside to wax the car anyway. I really wanted to wax it, so without thinking much about it, I said I'd check with ChatGPT and I pulled out my phone. That's when it happened. My mother-in-law was sitting at the table with her coffee and immediately went off on me, same tone as last time. She said, "I told you to stop using that thing, especially when I'm around. I told you I'm not okay with it and I don't want to see it." I felt that instant rush in my body, like adrenaline shooting up. That familiar urge to either explain myself or just put the phone away and end it. But this time, I paused. I remembered what I had been sitting with for days, that it's okay to feel uncomfortable, but it's not okay to shrink. So I didn't say anything. I didn't put my phone away. I just stood there and looked at her. Something strange happened. The emotion that rushed up in me just faded. I felt calm, grounded, almost relaxed. I realized I wasn't scared of her at all. For the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as someone angry or controlling, but as someone deeply afraid of something she doesn't understand. And this is how that fear comes out. I didn't feel the need to explain, defend, or argue. I knew that wasn't my job, and it would just pull me back into her storm. We just stared at each other for a moment. Then her face changed. She looked like she was about to cry. She turned away from me and wouldn't look at me anymore. I stood there for a second, feeling like I'd seen something real about her that I'd never noticed before, and then I went back outside. For the rest of the day, she wouldn't make eye contact with me. Even later, when I had my phone out looking things up, I noticed her glance over a few times and then quickly look away when she realized I'd seen her. It honestly feels good. Not in a petty way, but like something finally shifted. I don't feel tense around her anymore. It feels like she realized, at least on some level, that she can't tell me what to do. And for the first time, this doesn't feel like an ongoing issue. It feels resolved. Not the jerk. This honestly sounds like someone finally learning that their emotional outbursts don't automatically control the room. You didn't insult her, lecture her, or escalate. You just stopped shrinking, and that alone changed the dynamic. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is nothing at all, and just let someone sit with their feelings. Update. Mother-in-law hasn't come back to our house in almost a month. She told my wife she needs to step back from us because she's no longer comfortable around me. My wife thinks this whole thing is funny and says that eventually her mom will get over it. A few commenters suggested I ask ChatGPT why that moment with my mother-in-law played out the way it did, so I did. I wasn't looking for validation, more like understanding. What came back actually explained everything in a way that made it click even deeper. Here's the part of the conversation that mattered the most to me. Me. Why did she react the way she did when I didn't back down this time? ChatGPT. Patterns continue because they're rewarded. This is the way all feedback loops work. For a long time, the pattern between you and her was simple. She reacted with intensity, and you shrank to restore comfort. That reinforced her belief that her reactions controlled the environment. When you stayed grounded, the pattern broke. She was suddenly placed in a position she's never been in before, facing truth without illusion. Me. What do you mean by illusion? ChatGPT. Illusion is the story we tell ourselves to feel safe. In her case, the belief that control keeps her protected. When awareness enters the room, illusion collapses. You didn't attack her or argue with her. You simply stayed present and true to yourself. Truth doesn't need force. It cuts through illusion quietly, and that can feel overwhelming to someone who lives inside of it. Me. So that's why she shut down? ChatGPT. Yes. Awareness is powerful because it removes the roles people rely on. In that moment, you were no longer playing the part she expected. She was left alone with herself, and that can feel unbearable. This is the power of awareness. It doesn't dominate, it reveals. Reading that made the entire situation make sense. I didn't do anything to her. I just stopped participating in the illusion, and that's what changed everything. You know what I love about this update? Watching someone realize they're not on this planet to audition for approval. Exactly. The second you stop trying to be liked, everything gets clearer. The right people relax around you, and the wrong people suddenly can't stand you. And that's how you know you're doing it right. You didn't change into someone else. You just stopped shrinking. Turns out, being true to yourself is like a filter. It lets the good ones in and makes the control freaks very uncomfortable. My husband's ex just got hired at my office, and it's causing problems. My husband and I have been married for 2 years, together for 8. 7 years ago, he cheated on me with a woman I found completely repulsive. She knew about me, but still pursued him because the challenge was fun. I found out when he accidentally sent me a text that was meant for her. I cut contact and tried to move on, but he was persistent, and eventually we got back together. After that, our relationship changed drastically. He stopped showing interest in other women entirely. He said losing me was an eye-opener, and he never wanted to feel that way again. He wanted to better himself. It took a long time for me to trust him again, but somehow it happened. I really thought I was over it. My mom, everybody's best therapist, right? Always told me that I had 2 choices: break up and move on, or get back together and move past it. According to her, I couldn't choose to stay and then use the cheating as a weapon whenever I wanted. And she was right, that wouldn't have worked. So we rebuilt. We both changed and we grew up. We bought a house, we got married, we created a good life. When I did think about the past, it was more like, look how far we've come. I didn't feel pain or anger anymore, or so I thought. Last week, I walked into my office, and the first thing I saw was the other woman's nasty face in the waiting room. She had been hired at my company. She has a very unique, unforgettable, pig-like face, so I recognized her instantly. I didn't acknowledge her, and I went to my office, but I couldn't concentrate. I don't want to be anywhere near this awful person. We work at the same department, but different teams, so we'll have regular contact. She's been in training, so we haven't talked, but I've gotten multiple accidental friend requests from her on Facebook in the past, so I know she recognizes me too. When my manager walked her around for introductions, I did the polite smile and nod. She smiled and winked. Great. I feel sick being near her. When I see her face, I picture it near my husband's. I've gotten mad at him again, even though this all happened 7 years ago. He hugs or kisses me, and I pull away. It feels ridiculous to react this strongly to something I thought was dead and buried. I talk to him about it. He's extremely sympathetic and apologizes over and over that I have to work near her. He keeps pointing out how much we've grown, how good our life is, how he's not the man he was back then. One night I walked into our room and he was sitting on the bed crying about what he had done to us. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm bouncing between anger, sadness, guilt, disgust, and confusion. He keeps telling me to do what feels best, even if it means leaving my job. He said he can support us if I quit. I don't want to leave. I worked extremely hard to get to where I am. I make good money, great benefits, an amazing boss. And yet, the thought of being near this woman every day makes me sick. Am I crazy here? What would you guys do in my situation? Is it ridiculous to be this upset about something from 7 years ago? She's the past, plain and simple. Don't give her the power to ruin your life. She's not important anymore. My ex-wife once got a job in the same company as me. It was awful at first. We ended things on horrible terms and we share kids. I didn't sleep the night I found out. When I went to work, I looked past her and started my day. A friend asked how I was so calm, and I said, "The woman I knew is gone. That person over there is a stranger." You and your husband chose to rebuild 7 years ago. There's no need to dig up the past. Treat her like a stranger and move forward. Good luck to both of you. I can't imagine this ever becoming anything other than awful for you. The healthiest choice might be taking the skills and experience you've gained and finding another job. It sucks, but it may be better than living like this every day. Update 2 weeks later. First, thank you to everyone who replied. I read everything and responded where I could. One thing that I wanted to clear up is that my husband never actually slept with what's-her-face. I realize how that was implied when I said he cheated, but that didn't happen. They never took it all the way. And yes, I know that beyond any possible doubt, so no reason to speculate there. Anyway, onto the update. She got fired. Turns out, Miss Crazy Pants used me as a reference to get the job. I decided not to tell my boss anything personal about her. I figured she was the past. She was nothing. She didn't matter. I wasn't going to stir things up. She did manage to stir things herself. My boss came into my office one day and said, "I'll be honest, she's not exactly how you described her." I had no idea what she was talking about. She said, "When I asked you about her before we hired her, you described a much different level of performance. Does she usually take a while to adjust?" I was completely lost. I'd never talked to my boss about this woman. I've never commented on her performance at anything. Unless being more disgusting than the dirt under my shoe counts. Anyway, then it clicked. A few weeks earlier, I had given my boss an informal reference, but it was for a completely different person, a friend I truly did recommend for the open position. When my boss asked, she said something casual like, "Tell me about the woman you referred. She looks great on paper, but how is she as a person?" So I answered, assuming she meant my friend. Why wouldn't I? Turns out, Crazy Pants also applied at the same time and used me as a reference. She put my name on her resume and in the email she sent to my boss, claiming we were former coworkers. We weren't, ever. So when my boss asked for my opinion, we were talking about two completely different people without knowing it. When we put the pieces together, my boss pulled her resume and confirmed it. She had put me down as a reference without asking and lied about our connection. My boss immediately called her into the office and asked her to leave. She was let go on the spot for dishonesty and poor performance. I haven't heard from her since. No messages to me or my husband. She might be biding her time like a complete lunatic, or maybe she's moved on. Either way, she's blocked everywhere, and building security keeps records of fired staff, so at least there's that. If I see or hear from her again, I'll look into a restraining order. For now, I'm letting it go. Bye, Felicia. What an absolute psycho. It's hilarious in a disturbing way. Who does something like this? She must have applied just because you work there. That's some next level obsession. Everyone arguing the affair partner doesn't owe you anything is driving me nuts. Yes, your partner is the one who betrayed you. Yes, they carry most of the blame. But if you knowingly hook up with someone who's taken, you're not some innocent bystander. You're a willing participant. You don't have to be married to someone to owe them basic human decency. There's so many single people out there, and you pick the one with a spouse? That's not neutral behavior. That's choosing to help someone blow up their relationship. May a life like that never find me. I don't want surprise guest stars from 7 seasons ago showing up in my office. It is wild how some people can't move on, so they start showing up in places they don't belong, like a bad sequel. Am I the jerk for leaving my friend's wedding dress shopping trip early after finding out I wasn't a bridesmaid? So I, 32 female, have known this friend who's also 32 since middle school. Let's call her Fran. We drifted as adults, the way people do when careers change and priorities shift, but I always felt like she was one of my chosen sisters. We could go months or a whole year without talking, and it would still feel natural when we met again. Fran got engaged earlier this year. When I saw her in August, she asked if I'd be willing to fly out to join her and her best friend from childhood for wedding dress shopping. It's a 3-hour flight from where I live. During that same conversation, she told me I was the perfect person to go dress shopping with. She also talked about bridesmaid dress colors and asked what we should do for her bachelorette. She later sent me photos of rehearsal dinner outfits. So yes, I assumed I'd be in the bridal party. Not because I felt entitled to it, but because of the way she spoke to me and included me. I spent $500 on flights, plus like $100 on rides to get around once I arrived. There were 2 dress appointments scheduled for Saturday and 1 more for Sunday. I flew in Friday night while the other girl arrived Saturday morning. After Saturday's appointments, 7 of us went out for pizza, siblings and significant others. While we were sitting at the communal table, her brother casually asked, "So, what's your job in the wedding? I assume you're a bridesmaid." And Fran, without a hint of warning, actually goes, "Oh, she's actually not," right there in front of everyone. It was silent for a moment. I could feel my face heating up. I'm still embarrassed just thinking about it. No private conversation, no heads up, just a public no. Later that night, she said, "I just want to acknowledge how awkward my brother made dinner, as if he created the awkwardness." I told her I wasn't upset about not being a bridesmaid. If I didn't make the cut, that's her choice. What hurts was the way she told me, or rather didn't tell me at all until it came out in front of a table full of people. I said she could have told me Friday night when we were alone, or Saturday morning when we were together for hours before the other girl arrived. She could have said anything before I spent hundreds of dollars traveling out of state for this weekend. The conversation spiraled. She said she just can't come to me for big things anymore, and that she had felt extremely distant from me for years. Years. And I sat there thinking, then why am I even here? I cried most of the night. When I woke up Sunday, my eyes were puffy and sore. I couldn't make myself go to the final dress appointment and pretend that everything was fine. I booked an earlier flight home. Before leaving her place, I packed quietly and texted her and her fiancé. Woke up with a sore throat. Decided to take an earlier flight home. Thanks for opening up your home to me. Hours later, she replied, "Hope you feel better. Thanks for coming up this weekend." Since then, radio silence. She didn't even text me a happy birthday or a happy Thanksgiving. To be clear, the bridesmaid situation isn't the issue. I'm hurt because she let me spend money, energy, and emotion to show up for her, then dismissed me publicly and minimized it afterward. She even insisted we go out to a bar after, as if nothing had happened. So, am I the jerk for leaving early and not reaching out first? Edit. I think Fran asked me to come dress shopping because I'm a very hype you up type of person. I'm bubbly, detail-oriented, and I love making people feel celebrated. When it comes to events, I naturally take charge of the little things that make the day feel special. I'm the friend who makes canvas slides for bachelorette itineraries, who brings snacks, who remembers what styles someone likes. Her maid of honor is a lot more low-key, so I think I was invited to bring that extra energy without actually being in the bridal party. Her bridal party is small, just 3 people. It wasn't a trial weekend. The lineup was already set. I also want to add more context about the conversation that night because it really shaped how I felt. I told her very calmly, "If I didn't make the cut, it's fine. But it hurts because I would have always included you in mine. Your whole family would be invited. It's disappointing to feel like I don't matter the way I thought I did, but I get it. I still love you and would do anything for you. I just wish you had said something like, 'We're keeping the bridal party small, but I still want you to come dress shopping.' That's all I needed." And that's when everything went sideways. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Look, you didn't make the cut. That's it. What more do you want?" I said, "Wow, that's a little savage." She snapped back with, "You said that. Those were your words." At one point, she added, "If you don't want to come to the wedding, I get it," which was hurtful because it felt like she was giving herself permission to uninvite me without actually saying it. Money truly isn't the issue. I would spend thousands on my loved ones. Money comes and goes, but relationships are special and rare. Fran knows that's how I am. That's why this hurt so much. She let me fly out, spend all that energy on her, then drop this on me at dinner in front of everyone. She easily could have said, "Can we talk about this later?" Instead, she said, "No, she's not," in front of everyone. Then she pushed us all out to another bar to keep the night going. I felt used. That's the only word for it. And emotionally, we're just not the same people anymore. I've done a lot of growing up and healing. She feels like the exact same person she was in high school. I feel like I've lived 3 lifetimes since then. Edit 2. I completely admit I shouldn't have assumed anything. That assumption opened the door for the hurt. I also could have asked for clarity when she brought up bridesmaid dress colors and bachelorette ideas. That part is on me, and I'm examining my own conflict avoidance there. If I hadn't let myself get excited, the sting wouldn't have been as sharp. But even with that accountability, and even without assumptions, the way she handled it was rough. None of that changes how deeply awkward and hurtful the moment itself was. I feel like anyone would have felt blindsided. For the record, I've helped other friends plan their weddings while knowing from the start I wasn't in the bridal party. I've been the fun friend to bring along before. That's never been a problem. In those cases, though, communication was clear. This one just felt like I was invited for the emotional labor, not the friendship. Bride can't go to OP because that would require effort, consideration, empathy, all the things an adult friend should have, but she has zero issue with OP going to her and carrying all the financial, emotional, social weight for her convenience. She wanted the help and none of the responsibility of treating OP with basic respect. It's probably always worked like this in her world. People orbit around her, she gives crumbs back, and nobody calls her out. OP finally did, and that's why she panicked and lashed out. I keep coming back to the brother's question. No man casually asks, "So what's your job in the wedding?" unless something is off. I don't know. That felt intentional, like he overheard her bragging about using you and decided to blow it up on the spot. His reaction and her immediate awkward, "Oh, she's actually not," says everything. I'd send him a thank you card. It felt like he was the only one looking out for you. Inviting someone on a $500 dress shopping trip just to announce they're not a bridesmaid should count as a psychological thriller. OP thought she was part of the bridal party. Turns out she was just the unpaid hype crew. Am I the jerk for sending away the girl who came to clean my house because she ate my cake? I, 24 female, am married to my husband who's 28, and we have one daughter together who's 4, Aliyah. We both work a lot, and I also work from home often. I needed cleaning, so last week I called an agency and they sent a girl over to clean the house, and we agreed on $40 an hour. Let's call her Eva. So Eva, who's around 19 or 20, she arrives at my house with her little sister, who's 8. I asked her why her little sister was here, and she said she had nowhere else to leave her with. I wasn't very pleased, but assumed that she didn't have a choice, and I didn't say anything. I showed Eva the playroom of my daughter and said that it was to be cleaned as well, and her sister started staring around the room and touching all of the toys. I again didn't say anything. Eva started working, and I went to my room to go get ready to pick up a cake for Aliyah and to pick up Aliyah from school. I hear a noise in Aliyah's playroom, so I rushed over and I saw that Eva's sister was playing in the room and she had broken a glass bowl that I had custom made for Aliyah when she was born. At this point, I was annoyed, but again, I held myself and told Eva to clean it and keep an eye on her sister. I went out, picked up Aliyah's favorite cake with strawberries. It was a cake that had strawberries on only one side on the top, and on that same side, there were more decorations, etc. I put it in the fridge and left again to go pick up Aliyah. When we walked in the kitchen, I saw Eva's sister eating a big piece of the cake and exactly the part with the strawberries and more decorations. I've never had an issue like this before. In fact, the cleaning ladies never even opened my fridge or anything because they have no business in there. I asked Eva what she thought she was doing, and she told me, "My sister was sad and really wanted cake, so I figured she could have a piece." Aliyah started crying because she had been looking forward to her cake with strawberries, and now the piece with strawberries was gone. I told Eva that it's not her place to figure whether her sister could eat something from my fridge without asking me. She could have waited for me to get back because I told her I would be back. I told her that even if she did do this, she should not have taken the whole decorated piece because she could have also figured that this cake was meant for my daughter. Eva said that, "You're getting mad for no reason. Just take the money from my pay." I told her she could pack her stuff and leave with her sister, and she didn't have to finish the house cleaning. She had been at the house for only 2 hours, but I paid her $120 and told her to get out. So I told a friend, and she told me that I overreacted over a piece of cake, and I should have been more understanding. I again said that it's not just the cake, but it's rude to open my fridge and take out a cake that is not unboxed yet and eat it. I'm wondering now, am I the jerk? Edit. Eva was supposed to be there for 3 hours, and I sent her away after 2 hours, but I paid her for 3. Not the jerk for sending her away. You are the jerk for paying her what you did. When the bowl was broken, you should have called the agency and asked if their insurance covered both the person cleaning as well as her sister. If their insurance covered the broken bowl, then you should have immediately filed a claim for the replacement. If not, then the person cleaning is responsible for the replacement cost. Either way, you should have asked her to leave at that point. If the replacement cost was more than she had earned at that point, then she leaves with no pay. OP. The bowl was custom made, and it was a big one with lights on it and decorated with my favorite flowers. Besides that, it also consisted from crystal stones on the bottom, so it was well worth more than what she had earned that day. Luckily, the bowl was insured, so I'll get a new one. I just figured this 20-year-old needed money, and I wanted to give her a second chance. My best friend confessed that the reason why me and my fiancé are getting married is because of her. I don't know what to do. I've been sleepless for days because of this. I need to get this all off my chest or my heart might explode. My wedding is on the 19th, and my bachelorette party was last Saturday and was organized by my best friend, Lucy. I partied with my bridesmaids, had some shots, and they were so excited for me marrying the love of my life, Erwin. We've been together for 3 years. After the party, everyone was wasted and went home, leaving Lucy and I in the Airbnb. I wasn't that drunk, at most tipsy, so I helped her clean up because I'll be staying the night with her too. While we're cleaning, she's silent, which is very not like her. She was very active during the party, so I thought she was just tired, so I told her I would finish up and she can go rest. So she went to the bathroom. While I was finishing the dishes, she returned to the kitchen. She told me that she needs to tell me something. So I stopped what I was doing. Then she said she's sorry. She didn't expect that Erwin would ask me to marry him because it was a bet gone wrong. I was confused and asked her to elaborate. But what she basically told me is that when I first introduced them to each other, she and Erwin had a bet that if he can get me to marry him, she will exclusively date him. Apparently, they've been secretly dating since before I met Erwin. Their relationship was toxic, so they had these constant breakups, but on this particular break, she allowed him to date anyone. That's when Erwin and I met. When I asked her why she's only telling me this now, she said that she felt guilty. She didn't want to hurt me, but she didn't want to take full accountability and acknowledge Erwin's part in this. She was trying to convince Erwin to come clean together, but he refused and told her no. The bet was long gone because he was genuinely in love with me already. When I asked her if she still had feelings for Erwin, she answered yes, and she realized how good of a man Erwin is now. When I asked if Erwin knows how she feels about him, she answered no. But if I allow her, she'll confess her feelings to him. At this point though, I just left. I had no energy left. I feel so played and betrayed and humiliated. The two closest people in my life made me a pawn to their sick game. I don't even know what to do, where to start. I'm so confused. It's been 3 days and I haven't told anyone yet. Not even Erwin, who's in Hong Kong. Not even my parents. Lucy hasn't tried to contact me, and I think she didn't say anything yet to Erwin. The wedding is in 2 weeks. How do I face this? Update. Lucy and I have been friends for 11 years since high school. We even attended the same uni, but different courses. During college, we had a bit of a falling out due to our busy schedules, but after graduation, we reconnected. But she isn't as open to me now as she was before. When I ask about her love life, she'll say that she's not ready for dating, only doing casual flings. She once introduced me to her then boyfriend, so yes, I admit I was kind of a crappy friend and did not keep up with her flings. I work corporate and Lucy works remotely, so sometimes she stays for a month or so on an island or on a beach, so we rarely see each other. But we always get together when she's in my city. Lucy is not my maid of honor. My sister is my maid of honor, but she's still in uni for exams, so Lucy took over planning the bachelorette party. When I said that I introduced Lucy and Erwin to each other, I meant I introduced Erwin as my boyfriend to Lucy. Sorry if that's confusing. As for Lucy and Erwin's relationship, I don't know the timeline yet. A little history of how Erwin and I met. We met at a company event. My company was the host, and his was one of our clients. We bonded over the after party and exchanged numbers. Days after, he added me on Facebook. I actually saw that he and Lucy were mutual friends, so I asked if they knew each other. He answered yes, and they met during their internship days, but they weren't close. I asked Lucy to, and she confirmed it too, so I didn't make a big deal of it. We began casual dating, no labels, just to see where things go. I knew that he had been seeing someone else at that time, but I was too. But when we admitted to wanting to make things official with us, we broke up with our casual flings, and the rest is history. I picked him up from the airport yesterday, and I told him about Lucy's confessions. He went pale, but he was calm. He told me to ask everything I want to know, and he will answer truthfully. I'll try to summarize everything here. 1. Did he know that I was Lucy's best friend when we met? No, they didn't talk much about their personal lives when they were together. But he knew that Lucy's best friend's name was my name. But when we met, he didn't really put the pieces together. 2. How long were they dating before we met? He did not keep count because they were on and off again, but they were casually seeing each other for around 4 months before we met. And in his mind, they were never official as they didn't label their relationship. He did try to pursue her, but she kept messing with his head, so when she allowed him to date when they were on break, he thought of it as a way out. 3. Did he really bet on me? Yes, but he didn't take it seriously. He also did not initiate it. 4. When did the bet happen? It happened days after I introduced him as a friend to Lucy. He admitted that since we were still not exclusively dating, he still saw Lucy. Lucy initiated the bet, and if he did win, she would know that he is mature enough to seriously date. 5. When did their relationship end? A month or so before we made our relationship official, he already broke things off with Lucy because he was starting to fall for me. Lucy took it well and did not even bring up the bet. Why all of a sudden has Lucy brought it up? Lucy started bringing it up after we made our engagement official. He admitted to have forgotten all about the bet until she reminded him of it. So when Lucy reached out to come clean, he refused because he didn't really think it was that serious. 7. Is he aware of Lucy's feelings? No, he genuinely thinks that Lucy is happy for us. Right now, I don't know where to go from here. I believe him, but I just don't like the idea that the foundation of our relationship is from a bet. Whether it's serious or not, it's still not good. Can we rebuild trust from here? I don't know, but I'm willing to try. Aside from this issue, Erwin has been a great boyfriend, and I don't want to make harsh decisions about us and regret it in the end. What I do know now is that we need to call off the wedding. He told me that he'll understand if I don't want to go on with our wedding anymore, but he asked me to consider our relationship because he loves me and he'll do anything to regain my trust back. I also learned that Lucy actually tried to contact Erwin days after the bachelorette party, but Erwin missed her calls. She's still not reaching out to me, but I don't care anymore. Many of you say that she's sabotaging our relationship. This is her last-ditch effort to have Erwin by herself, and I think you're right. It just hurts that our 11 years of friendship have to end this way. So there. I think this will be my last update. Everything from here on will be Erwin and I's decisions. Thank you everyone for listening. Am I the jerk for banning my husband's sister from my house until she uses the names of my twins? I, 38 female, am married to my husband and we have 2 kids, twins, Amy and Nina, who are 6. We live in the same town as most of his family in this house that I inherited from my grandfather. It's the biggest house in the family, so we often host family gatherings. My husband's youngest sister, Jane, who's 31, has been traveling for work ever since her early 20s. Mid-2022, she moved in with her fiance about half an hour drive away from us. After that, Jane shows up regularly at family gatherings and rebuilds relationships with her family members. The only thing she never bothers to do is address my daughters by their names. Amy and Nina are identical twins. I understand when people refer to them as the twins, but I think it's important that their individuality is respected. I always tell my family and friends that now that they're 6 years old, it's important for them to each have their own identity, and if possible, please treat them as individuals rather than a pair or a unit. My girls have different interests and hair and dressing styles, so it's not hard to tell them apart. Jane always insists on calling the girls the twins and makes no effort to distinguish them. I've asked her many times to treat them as individuals, like her other nieces and nephews, and Jane would say okay and then keep doing the same thing. Last Christmas, Amy made paper cranes and Nina painted flower pictures as their Christmas gifts to everyone in the family. They signed their names and individually handed the gift to everyone. Jane's fiance had to work this year and did not join us, so after brunch, she video called him in the living room while the rest of us did our things nearby. Her fiance saw the crane in her hands and asked where she got it from, and Jane said, "Oh, one of the twins gave it to me for Christmas. The other twin drew some flowers." I felt that this was disrespectful, as my girls put a lot of effort into the gifts and deserved to have their private dedication recognized. When everyone left, I told Jane I expected her to call my girls Amy and Nina from now on, and to treat them like individuals and know their differences. Jane said that she won't bother, as my girls are still too young. So I told her that she's banned from my house until she learns how to address my girls by their names. Jane just stomped off. My husband agreed with me on this. A few days ago, my mother-in-law called to plan my husband's birthday in early February. I told her we could have the party at my house like usual, but Jane would not be invited. My mother-in-law was alarmed and asked me why, and when she learned of what happened, she was mad at Jane. Jane called me a few hours ago, calling me a jerk for making a big deal out of something insignificant. She said my girls would be known as the twins whether I like it or not, and once they got older, people will recognize them as individuals, but not now that they're young and just another couple of girls. She said she deserves to be with her family for her brother's birthday, and I need to let it go. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. As the mother of identical twin girls, who are now adults, I was very intentional about clearly treating them as individuals while still enjoying the uniqueness of being twins. Creating an environment where they are treated as two separate humans, not a unit, is incredibly important. They've commented more than once on how much they appreciated this growing up. Stick to your guns on this. I, 25 female, refused to let my boyfriend, who's 27, move in over an argument about decor. How do I get him to compromise? I, 25 female, just ended an argument with my boyfriend, 27, let's call him Alan, by informing him I wouldn't be moving in with him after all. He says I'm being dramatic and overreacting. I think he's waving red flags at me. Alan and I have been dating for 2 years and decided to move in together when our leases end. His ends in 3 months and mine ends next week. We picked out a new place together and I'm set to move in on the last day of my lease. Our agreement was that we would split the deposit and fees. I would move in and pay the rent 100% until he moved in, so that he wasn't paying rent at 2 places and didn't have to pay to end his lease early. Once his lease ends, we were going to add him to the lease and then split the rent and bills 70-30, because I make more and I believe in paying proportionally to what you make when living together. Tonight, while eating dinner, I mentioned that we should decide what furniture to keep and what to get rid of once he moves in. I was under the assumption that I would move in my things to use for the next 3 months, and then we'd figure out how to combine our 2 very different decorating styles when he moved in. But I wanted to know what major pieces of furniture he wanted to keep or get rid of or replace altogether. I want it noted that I never expected him to just let me decorate and furnish the entire apartment. That's when Alan got a confused look on his face and said, "What do you mean? Won't you be getting rid of most of your stuff?" I asked what he meant. Why would I be getting rid of most of my stuff? His reply was, "Babe, you can't expect me to live somewhere decorated the way your apartment is." I was offended by his disbelieving tone, but I understood that my decorating style isn't what most people go for. So I said, "Of course I don't expect to decorate the entire apartment. That's why we need to decide what we're keeping of yours and what we're keeping of mine and how to combine our different styles." Alan sighed the same way you do when you're trying to explain something pretty simple to someone who just doesn't understand no matter how you phrase it. Then he told me that no guy is ever going to want to live in a place with any of your stuff in it. He even went so far as to say that I was lucky I even stay over so often without complaining. Now, I'll admit, my personal decorating style is not going to land my place in any interior design magazines, but he just seemed like a jerk and honestly really rude. For context, my decor is what one of my friends likes to call Barbie meets goth, and another calls neon fairy obsessed with death. There's a lot of bright colors like pink, green, and blue, mostly pink, and morbid decor. Some examples include the Halloween skull bowl I painted hot pink and glued rhinestones to that hold snacks and candy in the kitchen. My collection of stuffed animals and squishmallows that sit on a large lime green cabinet that holds my movies and games, arranged around a small, not functional, guillotine where they were in the middle of carrying out the punishment of Mr. Sherbert. He's a teddy bear I got as a kid that's colored in a pastel rainbow color. My bathroom, which was exclusively decorated in mushrooms. If it comes in a mushroom pattern, I probably had it in my bathroom. The bath mat, shower curtain, trash can, wall decals, towels, everything had mushrooms on it, mostly in pink, blue, and yellow. My couch is pink, my coffee table teal, and my TV stand is gray, with bright blue floral contact paper lining the shelves and cabinets. Like I said, it's not an aesthetic that's for everyone, but I never thought Alan had a problem with it. The first time he visited my apartment, he said it fit my personality. Whenever I got a new piece of decor or did some do-it-yourself thing, he always complimented me on it. I know that doesn't mean he necessarily wanted to live in an apartment full of this stuff, but I never thought he disliked it enough to claim I was lucky he put up with it when he stayed over. I grew up in a house where everything was gray, brown, or white, and that kind of aesthetic bores me personally. So I love having fun, colorful things filling my home. I was more than prepared to make sacrifices to my style in order to live with my boyfriend, but he refused to accept any of the compromises I offered. He didn't want to let me keep any of my furniture. He said the pink couch was too girly, the lime green cabinet was ugly, the many different skull-shaped things were creepy and weird, and my colorful mushroom bathroom was childish. After an hour of trying to find some kind of compromise and things that I could keep, I finally asked him if he was going to try and make me get rid of everything I owned. His response was, "No, babe, I love your clothes." This man actually expects me to move into an apartment, live there for 3 months, and then get rid of everything I own when he moves in. I pointed out that was ridiculous, as I'd have to pack everything up and move it out twice in the span of 3 months, and that was ignoring the fact that he wants me to get rid of things I lovingly made because I couldn't find them to match my style. Alan claimed this was all a sacrifice I would just have to make for our relationship to move to this next step. So I asked him if he planned to get rid of his stuff so we could pick out new things together that we both liked. He said no. He said I should be more than happy with all of his things because none of it was weird or creepy or covered in glitter, because I also like shiny things and rhinestones. I do not bring glitter into my home. I actually laughed in his face. I might be the jerk for it, but I told him he had the most basic guy style I'd ever seen, and if most of his furniture wasn't black, I'd call him a sad beige mom. Alan was upset and said that I'm an adult and need to start acting like it instead of decorating like I'm a kid. I asked him why he's with me if my style is so offensive to him when he's the one who said it matched my personality. His response was, "You're a fun and quirky person, but that doesn't mean you should be decorating like a 3-year-old. How am I supposed to bring my friends over and not be embarrassed?" So I told him that until he apologizes for insulting me and my style and agrees to let me keep at least half of my things, he won't be moving in. My name is currently the one on the lease, and I'm the only one who can afford the apartment by myself, so I won't be adding him to the lease unless I believe he's truly sorry for what he said. I'm not going to live with someone who's embarrassed of something as important to me as my personal style. I think he bought into the nonsense about pink being too feminine and doesn't want to let me keep my decor because his friends will make jokes about him letting me take over or being whipped or something. How do I get him to compromise? Honestly, while your style sounds like a living nightmare for me, it's not about that. You love it, and as your partner, he needs to at least respect it. He's not even trying. Moving in together isn't just about sharing space, it's about learning that love isn't the only thing that matters, that compromise and mutual respect and a plethora of other things are needed for a relationship to work. This man is telling you flat out that he appreciates you, but he doesn't really respect who you are. If he's not ready for compromise now, at the very start of the racing line, when things are happy and easy, don't expect it from him later. Sounds like he fell in love with the manic pixie dream girl and now wants to guide her to adulthood. Forget that. Don't compromise. Don't make yourself smaller or drab because that meets with his approval. That comment of, "I love your clothes," as the only part of your style he likes makes me wonder how long that would last if you were to move in together. Look, being a cutesy manic pixie dream girl who wears elf ears is fine when you're 20, but moving into adulthood, most people want to be adults. They want to adopt a more refined style. Neither goth nor Barbie fit into that, but certainly not goth Barbie. You're going to have to accept that no grown adult will want your style and either be willing to grow and change or find someone who has a similar aesthetic. But you're going to close off a lot of options if you're not willing to move past the kid living with mom and dad phase of decorating. She'll find someone easily who appreciates her for her. Sure, there will be plenty of boys with Batman sheets and superhero posters on the wall that would love to have her. Actual grown men? Probably not so much. I mean, not for the long term. You're wrong. But okay, if it helps you feel better to pass judgment and tell someone they'll be forever alone, you do you. Are you accepting applications for roommates? I'd love to live in a space decorated as you describe. It will be a bit difficult to explain the situation to my husband, but I'm sure he'll understand. Alan needs to go where sad, boring people go and out of your life. Was he hiding the disgust with you for the whole relationship? My ex's new girlfriend is telling me that I'm causing problems in their relationship. When I, 30 female, was 16, I met my first real boyfriend, Vince, 31 male. He was 17 at the time. We were together for a year and then we broke up. While me and Vince definitely aren't friends, we are still friendly. The extent of our interaction is yearly happy birthday and happy new year messages, along with some small talk on that occasion. We follow each other on Instagram and sometimes like each other's pics. That's it, nothing more. Anyway, when I was at a New Year's Eve party a few days ago, I got a message from Vince saying, "Hey, Happy New Year, I wish you all the best." To which I replied, "Happy 2024, hope it treats you well." Fast forward to this morning. I got a message on Instagram from a girl I don't know, and this is what it said. "Hey OP, I'm not sure you know me, but I'm Vince's girlfriend. We've been together for a while now, and we are very serious about each other. I see that you message him and like his pics. I would appreciate if you stop that. We're going to get married, and this sort of interaction is not appropriate anymore. I hope you understand that inserting yourself in our relationship causes turmoil, and I cannot handle the stress and anxiety of it anymore. So I'm kindly asking you to stop." I was floored. I actually just started laughing, but I also got angry. She's misrepresenting things in her message. I checked out her profile. She's 23. I was a bit surprised by the age gap, but whatever floats their boat, I guess. She has plenty of pics of them together, so it's legit. She's his girlfriend. Now, I'm not sure what to do here. I feel like this girl is imagining things. She's claiming me liking some of Vince's pics and wishing him happy birthday is causing turmoil in their relationship. She says I'm inserting myself into their relationship. Me and Vince are not close at all. I didn't even know he was in a relationship. I showed this to my fiance and best friend. My fiance advised I block them both and don't get involved in this drama, which is definitely something I'm not opposed to. But my best friend told me I should maybe just send a screenshot of this to Vince, because maybe he knows about it, so it won't be a surprise to him. But if he doesn't, maybe he'd want to know his girlfriend is reaching out to his ex with some strange demands. So I don't know what to do here. I'm absolutely not going to reply to her, but should I let Vince know she messaged me or just let it be? Update. So I sat on this for a day or so, considering what I should do. There have been many comments pointing out how strange, insane, and bad it is that I stayed in contact with an ex, saying I must still have a thing for him. I honestly resent the implication. I see Vince much like a childhood friend, but some people were dead set on me being stuck on him, which is not necessarily bad. It just made me see lots of people see it this way, so his girlfriend might as well. So I decided to remove myself from the situation completely. I don't want to be a bad guy and a homewrecker in anyone's story. I blocked her on Instagram and blocked Vince as well, and I also blocked Vince on Facebook, and I thought that was it. A week passed, and I get another message from this girl, this time on Facebook. I didn't block her there because I didn't even know her full name. The messages were more hostile, now accusing me of not removing Vince from my LinkedIn connections as well. And she felt that's how I'm still trying to keep track of him. I almost never even use LinkedIn, and I completely forgot I even had him on there. I've never spoken to anyone on LinkedIn other than a recruiter. I don't know, this made my anxiety go through the roof. I blocked her on Facebook and removed Vince from my LinkedIn connections, and this is it for now. I hope she doesn't also check his MySpace account. Definitely do not engage with her. Take a screenshot and send it to Vince. Just keep it neutral, along the lines of, "Hey, just wanted to share with you what she sent me. I apologize if any interaction has been misconstrued as my inserting myself into your relationship. Best regards, OP." Then let him handle it. If he blocks you, so be it. If he doesn't block you, so be it. My friend and his fiancé are demanding to live with me. To me, this is simple that I've done nothing wrong, but some people are saying I'm the jerk, so I'd like the opinion of this fine sub. So I'm 28, male, and my friend Tom is 29, and his fiancée, Kat, is 31. Recently, Tom and Kat have come into financial issues and are unable to pay for their rent. As it stands, they can either move in with Kat's parents, who live roughly 2 hours away, or they can move in with me until they find another place to rent. Now, they would rather move in with me. I live alone in a 3-bedroom house, so I have the space. It would be easier for them as they can stay near our other friends and close to Tom's work. There's also a lot of parks nearby that Kat can take her dogs to for walks. That's all well and good for them. However, the idea of living with someone, let alone 2 people, does not sit well with me. I have 1 bedroom where I sleep. The other 2 bedrooms are my home office and my library. Furthermore, I love the feeling of coming home to an empty house. Everything is where I left it, and I can properly unwind. Also, living alone makes it easier to bring girls over. So I told Tom and Kat this, and they were not happy. They called me selfish for not sacrificing for them. They said a true friend would help. So I told them the blunt truth. I would be happy to help Tom. He works full-time and would respect my space. But I did not want Kat to live with me. Reasons being, she doesn't work, so she would be in my home much more than me. Her dogs are inside dogs, and I don't want that at all. And I told them that Tom has told me privately he gets frustrated that he comes home from work and still has to prepare dinner and do most of the chores. I told Kat she's lucky she's with someone who tolerates her and loves her, but I'm not like Tom. I'm not dealing with it. Kat breaks down crying at this point and calls me evil. I apologize to Tom, and I tell him he knows my stance. This happened late last year. Right now, Tom and Kat are living with Kat's parents still, and I know it's hard for them. My mates know how Kat is and told me I did the right thing. However, people who are close to Kat are saying I'm a terrible person and I put them in a situation which might ruin their relationship. So, am I the jerk for not letting my friend and his fiancé move in? OP stands up for himself, sets boundaries, and gives a Karen a reality check. Let's see what our friends on Reddit have to say about him. I don't think your comments about Kat were appropriate. It's not your relationship, so it's not okay to tell her those kinds of things. The stuff you said about the dogs is fine. What you said about her being home more than you is fine. Questioning her commitment to Tom is not, even if she is a bad fiancé. You don't actually need to give any reason why you want to live alone, which is why the personal comments were even more unnecessary. You're the jerk. I was firmly prepared to say not the jerk until the part where you apparently publicly told them both what Tom had told you privately about Kat. As far as not housing them, that's fine and not what makes you the jerk. But you didn't need to go into every little detail, and especially didn't need to betray Tom's trust like that. Your handling of the situation is what makes you the jerk. You're the jerk. Not for deciding not to rent space to your friends, that's your choice, and you had several valid reasons for not wanting to, specifically these 2, as roommates. But telling Kat that she is the main reason and spelling it all out was unnecessarily harsh. Just tell them you don't want 2 dogs living in your house, and that's enough of a reason, or something else. No need to list one of the person's character flaws, whether they are valid or just as you see them. Everyone sucks here. Sure, it would be convenient for them, but it's ultimately your house, and anyone who expects you to go out of your way to home them is plain wrong. The next time anyone complains, ask them to volunteer their own house since they're so eager to offer up yours. On the other hand, what you said to Kat is excessive. You also shared something Tom told you privately, violating his trust. Not the jerk. Imagine if OP was a female and didn't want her friend and the boyfriend moving in because dude was a lazy slob who didn't work or help with any chores. Would you all be tearing OP apart for not wanting them staying with her if that were the case? Of course not, because Reddit hypocrisy. Everyone sucks here. They should have accepted your no and not tried to guilt you into accepting them to move in. You should not have betrayed your friend's confidence about what he said about his fiancé. I get that you were frustrated by them being pushy, But you didn't need to go to that extent to achieve your goal. You chose the nuclear option because you knew it would end the argument. Now you deal with the fallout. Good rule of thumb. If you're going into a fight with he said, she said, facts as your weapons, you've already chosen poorly. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his friend and the fiancé? Please let us know. I'm proud of OP for not being a pushover, and it's a shame how all these little goofballs can't handle the truth. Karen cheats off my test. Huge mistake. In high school, I was a bit like Hermione Granger in the worst way. I was just an awkward kid who understood the material as well as the teacher did. I was that odd kid who read history books during the summer for fun. I'd constantly be raising my hand in class with the answer, looking for validation. That kind of behavior got me picked on quite a bit by a certain group of students in my history class. They'd tease me, mostly behind my back, but they weren't above cheating off me on the tests as they were difficult. And they knew that I knew all the answers. Very few of my test scores in this subject were below 100, as history is a passion of mine. Initially, I was flattered, but over the semester I got the sinking feeling of being used, as these kids didn't show me respect in any other way. Our final history exam was a 50-question multiple-choice test, and it would be worth 30% of our final grade. The stakes couldn't be any higher. The teacher wrote the questions to be tricky. On the day of the final, I scanned through the test in a few minutes. I knew the material and I felt confident. My peers on either side of my desk were watching to see how I'd answer. Their neighbors were, in turn, discreetly watching them. It seemed as if this entire side of the class was hanging on my answers. I answered the first 3 questions accurately, then I went for the almost correct answer every other time. This resulted in a 54% score. I was careful to let the other kids see my test. Then, when I was finished, I waited and I stared at the wall with my test still in front of me. The time was running out and my classmates all began nervously turning in their tests, until only a couple of students on the other side of the room remained. With 5 minutes left, I stood up abruptly, crinkled my test into a ball, and threw it into the garbage. I was trying to be dramatic, and it worked. You've never heard such a stunned silence. I quickly grabbed a new test from the table. There were still a couple up there, missing students. With a shocked smile, the teacher said, "There's only 5 minutes left." I didn't care. I had spent the period memorizing the correct answers. With no time to spare, I answered all of the questions with the answers I had memorized. My friends told me later that everyone was staring. I didn't have the bandwidth to see it. With 10 seconds left, I turned in my test. The kids that had cheated off me looked pale and sickly, in a state of shock. They knew that I did them over. They just didn't know how badly. There was nothing they could say or do. I was one of 3 students that had an A in that class that semester. The average grade was in the lower 60s. That low grade for my classmates ended up knocking several kids out of the running for valedictorian several years later. Oddly, I was treated with noticeably more respect after this, and I wasn't cheated off of again, as far as I could tell. My husband will only eat kids' food, and it's ruining our relationship. My husband will only eat chicken nuggets, grilled cheese, and SpaghettiOs. That's it. When we go over to friends' places, he'll actually bring some SpaghettiOs to heat up in their microwave instead of eating anything else, even if our friends cooked a wonderful meal. If we go out somewhere to eat, he'll just order chicken nuggets off the kids' menu. If they don't have them, he just won't eat. If I try to cook literally anything except for one of his favorite food groups, he'll claim that he's allergic to some random ingredient instead of just outright saying he doesn't want to eat it. He'll then try to guilt me for forgetting his allergy. Spoiler, we've been to the doctor and he's not allergic to anything. My husband just turned 36 this month. His food habits were sort of cute and acceptable when we were both in college and eating like trash, but now I'm genuinely worried about his health. I also find myself avoiding any sort of dining situations with our friends, which is so much harder than it sounds. I've tried talking to him about his eating habits, and he just brushes me off. Since I don't cook his meals, the only victory I've had in this situation, he doesn't think I have the right to dictate what he can and can't eat. I'm not his mother, I'm his wife, but I just want my husband, the man I love, to be healthy. What do I do? Edit. We met when I was 19 in my sophomore year of college. We got married after graduation and moved in together shortly after. I didn't realize how strict his diet was until after we were married. It does sound like avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, and I agree that we do need counseling. There's a good counseling center nearby that I found last night that offers couples therapy. I want to try them first. I'm going to bring it up to him tonight and really try to explain how much this issue bothers me, and how at the very least we should discuss this with a counselor to find a place where we're both happy. We started dating when I was 19 and he was 32. Looking back, I definitely wasn't mature enough for a serious relationship, but he's always been thoughtful and understanding. Update. So I did it. I confronted him when he came home. I brought up this condition that he may have, which he seemed very open to. He seemed sort of relieved that it's a fairly common disorder. Some of you absolutely called it. He explained that he was extremely embarrassed and defensive when I had tried bringing the issue up with him before. When I explained how much it hurt when he shut down on me, he seemed genuinely surprised. He had no idea this issue was so important to me. I'll admit, I did cry a bit as I told him how worried I am about him eating himself into an early grave. His foods are not healthy, and by the end of our conversation, we both agreed to work together to overcome this. We'll be going to couples therapy this weekend at a local clinic. From there, we'll look into seeing a dietitian and a specialized counselor for his eating disorder. However, I called his mother while he was at work. I asked her about his eating habits as a kid, if there were any foods he sort of liked or anything he was really adverse to. I like the idea of making weekly meal prep together so that there's no surprises and we can collaborate on slowly introducing new foods. I was hoping this conversation would give me a good starting point when I talk with him. His mother is a very sweet woman and told me all of the foods that he would sort of eat and everything that he refused to. But she offhand mentioned that he has sensory processing issues. I asked her to elaborate and she did. It turns out he was diagnosed as a kid. He even went to an after-school physical therapist for many years to deal with sensory issues. He never told me any of this. When I spoke with him, I didn't know how to bring it up, so I just didn't. I'm so worried he'll deny it or get angry with me for speaking to his mother behind his back, since he obviously doesn't want me to know. I feel lied to and manipulated. I don't know how to bring this up with him because right now I'm just starting to process it. I'm angry that he never told me. His food issues are one thing, but not telling me about his diagnosis and seemingly intentionally keeping it from me, as he didn't bother to mention it today either, is another. It's more and more obvious that the man I married isn't who I think he is, and he's been lying to me for years. Right now, I'm telling myself to wait until counseling this weekend before confronting him. I don't want our conversation to be out of anger, but I also don't know how I could ever trust him again if he was so willing to keep such a big secret from me. Edit. I will be bringing this up in counseling, but I'm not going to discuss it with him until then, as I don't want to let my anger and hurt override my desire to help him. Update. I confronted him about my conversation with his mother the night before our counseling appointment. I made sure to bring it up casually so I didn't become angry again. He tried to brush me off at first, saying he didn't know what I was talking about. After talking for a bit, he eventually confessed that he not only knew of the diagnosis, but deliberately kept it from me. He said I was his dream and he didn't want to do anything to ruin our perfect relationship. I explained how him keeping this from me hurt me. I explained how I could have been there to support him instead of feeling like he needed to hide. He said he wasn't ashamed of it at all. He explained that it's just not something that affects him anymore. I again explained how it affects me, but he didn't seem to care. I didn't show him the post I made, but I used some of the advice from you all to try to explain why this does in fact still affect his life. He went to bed upset. The next day, he acted like nothing happened. We ate breakfast. He had chicken nuggets and went about our day. I kept expecting him to bring it up, but he never did. I didn't have the nerve to bring it up again until later at the marriage counselor's office. I spoke to the counselor so as to not seem accusing and explained that this was an issue that bothered me. My husband actually laughed and said he assumed I had gotten over it by now. When I explained that no, I really hadn't, he got angry with me and stormed out. The counselor tried to mediate, but it wasn't much use as my husband went to wait in the car. I was worried he'd leave without me, so I cut the meeting short. Our ride home was quiet. It wasn't until we got home that I said I was worried he was keeping other things from me too. He said he had been reading online about how some people can't understand his condition, and therefore he didn't think it was important to tell me about it. I said that was the weakest excuse I'd ever heard. He then said I'd leave him if I knew. I said if I left him, it would be because he's a liar. Apparently, he told all of our mutual friends that he had just been diagnosed recently, and I was considering leaving him because of it. Now many of our friends won't talk to me and act very cold when we run into each other in public. I don't know what else he's told them, but I think he told them that I cheated on him, as a fake account has been commenting horrible things about me on my Instagram. I keep reporting them, but it seems like another just pops up in its place. I haven't decided if divorce is the right path. I know he's been browsing angry, lonely, bitter male websites, so I'm even more convinced that this isn't the man that I've married. I'm mostly just confused. I've been avoiding him at home, and it feels like more of a roommate situation at this point. He doesn't really leave his den until it's time for work, and then he's back in the den until bed. It seems like everything is messed up just for me wanting to help. I don't even know what to expect at this point, much less how to move on from here. Update. I'm going to be discussing divorce with a lawyer. I don't know how to bring it up with him, but I'm past the point of caring. You're all right. I dread coming home to him in the evenings. I dread if he will miraculously want to talk. This isn't healthy for either of us. At the very least, some time apart would be good. That's all for now. I don't think I'll update past this, as I'm already uncomfortable with how quickly this blew up. But I will be living elsewhere by the end of the month. I read the first part, then stopped. All I saw was, I married someone who eats like they're a kid, and now I'm upset that they eat like a kid. Why do so many people think that their significant other is going to magically change at some point in the relationship? Am I the jerk for sending him a bill for $1,000 after him and his kid ate all of our food? I've been seeing Jack for 2 years now, but we live separately due to the kids and just wanting to make sure this is 100% all in before uprooting them. I have 2 sons, 13-year-old twins, and 1 daughter who's 11. He has 1 daughter who's 13. We do weekend stay-togethers twice a month so far, and there's never been any major issues, honestly. The girls have gotten into a few petty arguments, but other than that, no big problems. I spend around $1,000 a month in food, and that covers me and my kids, plus Jack and his daughter for the 2 visits a month. I do a lot of meal prep and couponing. Last month, my mother asked me and my kids to go to her place in Louisiana to help her move out of her home and into a 50-plus community. It made me feel more comfortable to have my house occupied in my absence to keep the dehumidifiers and everything running. Huge moisture issues here, and I don't want anything to mold or rust. So I asked Jack if he and his daughters wanted to stay at my place for 2 weeks in our absence to keep everything running smoothly. I gave it a 2 weeks time frame, but was unsure of how long it would actually take. I knew the drive alone would be 2 days there and 2 days back. He agreed. I did my monthly shop before leaving and spent $1,092. I told them that they could have some of my food when we were gone, so maybe this is my fault. But anyways, we got back 2 days ago, 4 days before the 2-week mark, and found my house in ruin practically. Dirty dishes on the counters and table, dirty clothes throughout the living room and bedrooms, mine and my daughter's where they slept. I kept my house clean, so this caused a lot of panic on my end. I grew up with hoarders, so I take pride in a clean home. But the one thing that truly tipped me over the edge was finding that they went through at least 90% of the food I bought before leaving in less than 2 weeks. We were left with a single pack of hamburger, all the veggies, and a few boxes of pasta. Jack started scrambling when we entered the home, saying, "Sorry, I was gonna clean before you got back, but I didn't expect you so soon." I just gave a hushed, "Please leave." He and his daughter left. But after giving it some thought, I told him he had to reimburse us the $1,000 worth of food that he and his daughter ate. I told him their intake was absolutely repulsive, that I said he could have some, not eat everything in the house and leave us with nothing. He said that he had allowed her to have some friends over, and they are a lot, but he shouldn't have to give me $1,000, given that I told him they could eat the food. That I have more than enough money. True, and he doesn't. Also true. I still want to be reimbursed, however. And yes, we split up. Am I the jerk? ETA. This may make me sound bad, but I wouldn't consider him house-sitting as doing me any favors. All he had to do was dump out the dehumidifier when it got full. I could have asked my neighbor to do that for $200. He and his daughter live in a small apartment, and coming to my house feels like a vacation to them. Their words, not mine. I have a 2-story home with 6 bedrooms on the beach, with a hot tub, a game room, cable, and high-speed internet. They were essentially getting a free vacation, and the only thing they had to do was dump the dehumidifier once a day. I more or less asked for the $1,000 based off the principle alone. I don't expect him to give me the money, but since he was not understanding my viewpoint, it was acceptable. I asked him for the $1,000 so he could open his eyes and understand how big of a deal it truly is. I did the big shop before leaving because I had work obligations scheduled for when I returned, and going out and doing a big shop in the middle of 4 showings and mandatory seminars would have been a nightmare. I didn't buy any fridge stuff outside of what I knew they would eat. Everything I bought was non-perishables, boxed dinners, and meat for the freezer. I didn't leave him over the food. I left him because after I tried explaining why this was wrong of him, he accused me of throwing my privilege and money in his face, knowing he's not as financially stable as me and making him and his daughter feel bad for doing nothing wrong. I've never thrown money in his face, never asked him for anything, and have paid for everything in the past 2 years because he couldn't. I helped him with multiple bills and things his daughter needed without question. So he made me feel stupid, and I won't tolerate it. Not the jerk. Where I live, pet and house sitting would run about $50 a day, and my sitter provides their own food, so it would cost me $550 for 11 days. To feed a family of 4 in an expensive market cost me $2,000 a month. So even if they had consumed half the food, that would be excessive in my opinion. There's no planet where it would be a reasonable expectation that it was free for all on the food worth $1,000. Even with friends over, how did they manage to eat that much food between 2 people in 11 days? If I saw my house in a complete pigsty when coming home early with the house sitter, I'd probably have a stroke. Not frantically clean it like they're a teenager 5 minutes before you get home. And the fact that this is not just some stranger you would expect the bare minimum from, but rather your longtime partner, who you'd think would have more care about your belongings and your feelings, makes it even worse. Girlfriend won't wear my shirts or jackets, but wears her ex's. So I've been dating my girlfriend for about 6 months, been official and everything. When we go back to her place, she puts on this shirt that's too big for her, or this black jacket when it's cold. I asked her where she got them from, and they were from an ex. I wasn't crazy about it, but whatever. When she comes over to my place though, or it's cold outside and she doesn't have a jacket, she doesn't want to wear mine. One time in particular, we're hanging out in my backyard, playing with my dog, and she was shivering. I asked her if she wanted a jacket, but she insisted on not wearing it. Later that same day, we went back to her place. She needed to run some errands and was going to go out again. As she was getting ready, she put on her ex's jacket. Am I overthinking this? I feel kind of hurt that she doesn't want to wear my shirts or jackets. Try not to focus on this, but I think it's weird and it would annoy me as well. Have you told her how you feel about this? That might help, and then drop it. Sorry, man. OP. I've tried to. I haven't straight up told her to stop wearing those shirts or jackets, but I asked her why she didn't want to wear mine. She simply said they're not her style, which feels like absolute BS, because the shirts from her ex have pit stains, and the jacket has a hole in the pocket and a zipper that gets stuck. Bro, that's a legit what gives moment. It's like, ex's shirt is comfy, but not yours? Nah, it's not about jackets, it's about feels. Maybe she's not connecting your stuff with coziness yet. Maybe her own hang-ups. Chill, don't overthink, but also communicate. Share your feels, ask about hers. There might be more to the jacket drama. If she's still rocking the ex's gear, it's worth a conversation. Keep it real, but keep it cool. Jackets aren't just fabric, they're feelings, man. OP. We were friends for under 2 years before we started dating. She was with her ex for less than a year. If that's the case, then it really is frustrating. Update. So I had a chat with my girlfriend this morning, and I basically told her that I was really bothered that she chooses her ex's clothing over mine. She said that they are just clothes, but I explained to her that the visual of me offering my jacket and then she rejects it and goes back to her place to use her ex's really bothered me. She took a second and was like, oh. I asked her how she would feel if I did something similar, and she realized she'd be bothered by it. She said my jackets are fine, just that she didn't like the color. She apologized and said that her shirts are just shirts, but she didn't realize how it looked from my point of view. She said she had an idea, so she drove us to a local clothing store. She bought me a jacket. Then she said that I better not complain when she uses this jacket once it smells like me. So yeah, everything turned out great. Edit. She also offered to toss her ex clothes away, but I told her she didn't need to. It wasn't the clothes themselves that bothered me, it was how she was acting with them when compared to mine. Am I the jerk for moving out after my parents told me to give my space to my brother and his family? I, 27 female, live with my parents. I have a job and I've been helping them by paying rent and buying groceries. My brother is married and they have 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a newborn. He recently lost his job and has asked my parents if he can move back in until he's back on his feet. My parents told me that I would need to move out of the basement suite in the house and into my mom's hobby room while my brother and his family stay with them. I did not agree, and they said it was their house and their rules. I don't really own a lot of stuff. Everything in the suite belongs to them. I don't even own my bed. I packed up my clothes and my laptop, and I went to work like usual. I went out of town for 14 days, then I got 7 days off. While I was at work, I booked an all-inclusive for my week off. It cost me less than rent and food at my parents' house. I told my parents my plans, and they were cool with it. I started getting texts a few days ago asking where my rent and grocery money was. I said that I moved out, that if I wasn't living there and eating there, I wasn't going to be giving them money. They got really upset because they were counting on the money to help support my brother. They said that I moved out without giving notice. I said that they literally gave away my living space and that I didn't owe them anything if I wasn't there. I asked them how much they were charging my brother. I was giving them $1,800 a month, Canadian money, for rent and food, and I was only home a maximum of 14 days a month, usually less. My brother called me to say I was a jerk for not helping him out. I pointed out that he hadn't sent our parents money when he was employed. He said that he had a family to support, so he needed his money. He said if I came back, he and his family would move upstairs and I could have my space back. I had actually done the math though. I can stay at an all-inclusive which covers my room, maid service, food, alcohol, and entertainment for 2/3 of what I was paying my folks, and I don't have to live through Edmonton winters when I'm not working. I sent my parents $500 to help them with groceries, then I went to the beach. My parents, my brother, his wife, and a fair few of my other relatives are saying that I'm a jerk for abandoning them in a time of need. I think I'm not, and I shouldn't have to pay them anything. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. As you say, you were renting a space and they threw you out. In addition, it sounds like they were overcharging for the space, given that you found a space you like better for less money. Now, there's nothing wrong with helping your parents, so I wouldn't necessarily say your old rent was a problem, but it's crazy that they would kick you out and expect the rent and grocery money to remain unchanged. I can't tell if your parents are jerks or just oblivious. You make an excellent point about how your brother wasn't sending your parents money when he was employed. That makes it clear that your payments were for rent and food, not just because. Honestly, I think it's healthier for you to be on your own anyway. It's natural for kids to become more independent as they mature. Am I the jerk for expressing to my in-laws that I don't want to be their server for their family Christmas dinner? I'm a newlywed, and my in-laws are rolling into town for Christmas and staying at my husband and I's new house. They mentioned wanting to dine out for Christmas dinner, but I offered to whip up a home-cooked feast instead. Unfortunately, they turned down the offer. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I'm currently working as a server in our town after recently being laid off from my corporate job. Lucky for me, the restaurant is closed on Christmas Eve and Christmas. Well, turns out my mother-in-law had other plans. She called up my workplace without speaking to me beforehand and asked for me to be their server for their entire Christmas dinner. I found out through my husband that I'd be playing the role of their server for their festive family celebration, and my Christmas gift would be a sweet tip and takeout from my restaurant. Seems a bit odd, especially since our restaurant isn't even open on Christmas Eve or Christmas, and I'd be available to spend time with them on those days. They're scheduling this dinner before we close and making it their designated family celebration. I politely declined because let's be real, being excluded from Christmas dinner while working as their server? That's a hard pass for me. Unfortunately, I was told that I was being dramatic and there's nothing weird about me being their server for their family's Christmas dinner. Thoughts? Not the jerk. That's insulting and spiteful. We don't want you to cook or be a participant in our Christmas celebration, but we'd love to come to your workplace and have you serve us. So technically you're there with us, but you can't contribute to the conversation and are required to be polite because it's your job. And to say your gift is the tip and takeout? What on earth is this? I'd tell your boss that you request to not serve them or switch with a coworker or call out last minute or something. How does your husband not see the offense in their actions and isn't supporting you? OP. I felt like it was very offensive and couldn't really understand why they thought it was weird that I said no. If the roles were switched, my family would never do that to their son-in-law. I've served my husband, friends, and family in the past, but not on a holiday where I was being isolated. I feel like I'm being gaslit. Am I the jerk for having the power to my apartment disconnected after being asked to leave? 18 months ago, I moved into my best friend's apartment because she was struggling to pay rent. Having a pretty good income, I paid the majority of the bills, including all of the electric, heating, internet, food costs, and half the rent. I was paying roughly $1,800 per month while she was paying $500 per month. 10 months ago, my roommate's mother moved in with us and the financials didn't change. I was still paying half of rent, all of the electric, heating, food for 3 people and internet. Her mother paid nothing. My roommate met a guy about a month ago from the other side of the country, and this week they had planned on him coming to stay with us for 2 weeks. I was not happy about it. It was clear he didn't like me when we chatted on the phone. I digressed and said whatever. 24 hours before he was set to arrive, her mother started an argument with me. Her mother is irrational and rude. After a bit of attempting to appease her and it not working, she told me, "If you have a problem, you can leave." And I said, "When do you want me to leave?" And she said, "Right now." So I packed a bag and left. 2 hours later, the police showed up to my parents' house to speak to me about the happenings of the night. Her mom claimed that I made her feel scared and demanded a police officer escort me to retrieve my belongings from the apartment. The police told me I don't need them there to retrieve my stuff, and if they try to block me from getting my stuff, to call them. Last night, I brought a buddy and a truck, and in an hour and a half, we moved all of my belongings out from the apartment. Today, I called the electric company to have them cancel my electric as I no longer live there. The electric company let me know that they'll be shutting off the power to the apartment tomorrow and reminded me that if the pipes weren't full of antifreeze, they might burst. Am I the jerk for not giving my roommates a heads up that they will be shutting off the power? Also, I'm not on the lease. Not the jerk. You're not obligated to pay for anyone's power. Plus, her mom filed a false police report in order to try and get you arrested. I think the leniency ship has sailed. I agree. Not the jerk. They have every right to turn off the power the moment they leave. It's not their responsibility to pay for anyone else. Not the jerk. Just tread carefully. You turning up with a big strong man with a scary truck and turning off the water could be claimed as harassment and the situation twisted against you. In my jurisdiction, I would send a letter through a lawyer saying for them to not contact you at all, and in genuine cases where communication is needed, go through a lawyer and also notify them you removed yourself from the utilities as you no longer live there. Not the jerk, but you need to tell the landlord so that he can tell them. Let him know that you moved all of your belongings out of the apartment and you're giving up your tenancy. That way, he can't name you in the eviction that's going to happen. My sister demands I babysit her kids during my vacation. I, 27 female, have been planning a much-needed vacation for months. I work a demanding job, and this vacation is my chance to relax and recharge. My sister, who's 30, has 3 younger kids, and she reached out to me last week asking if I could babysit them for a few days while she and her boyfriend go on a weekend getaway. I politely explained to her that I've been looking forward to this vacation for a long time and that I really need this break. I told her I wouldn't be comfortable taking on the responsibility of looking after her kids during my time off. Well, my sister didn't take it well. She accused me of being selfish and uncaring, arguing that family should always be there for each other. She even guilt-tripped me, saying she never asks for favors and that I'm abandoning her in her time of need. I stood my ground and told her that while I do love my nieces and nephews, my vacation is crucial for my well-being, and I shouldn't have to sacrifice it for her last-minute request. Now the entire family is divided. Some are supporting me, recognizing the importance of self-care, while others are siding with my sister, claiming that I'm being heartless and should prioritize my family over personal desires. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my sister's kids during my long-awaited vacation, or should I have put my plans aside to help her out? Not the jerk. Just like your sister would like a break, you would also like a break. The difference is you took the time to plan your vacation, and now your sister wants to use your planning to her benefit. This also isn't a time of need for her, it's just a time of want. To the family that believes you should be helping your sister, well, they can volunteer to babysit. If and when they let you know that you should have agreed to babysit, simply say, "Oh, I'll let sister know you feel that way, and you can probably babysit then, since you would prioritize family so you can make the time to help." Your sister doesn't need the same vacation time off as you. She just didn't do the work of coordinating time for herself. Am I the jerk for telling my husband I'll move back in once my stepdaughter and her family move out? I married my husband when his daughter, Trudy, was 22. She's now 36. He was 47 and I was 32. I have 2 kids who are 20 and 18 now. Both are away at college. Trudy never liked me, and that was fine. She has a mother, and she was a full adult living on her own when we met. Her parents had been divorced for 6 years when I met her father. We live in a city with lots of tourism, so it was an easy decision to keep my apartment and do short-term rentals when my kids and I moved in with my husband. We also used it for out-of-town guests. Trudy and her husband ran into some financial problems last year. Trudy and her family of 4 moved in with us. We agreed that after the holidays, I would stop taking reservations for my apartment and they could move in there. They would sign a lease and we would rent it to them without collecting rent so they could build up rental history and money. Trudy moved in last October and it was horrible. She doesn't help around the house and neither do her kids. Her husband is working his butt off to get money together for them, so he comes home exhausted, and he is more help than her or their kids. The 3 of them leave dirty dishes everywhere, dirty laundry everywhere. The house is just a mess. I've spoken to all of them, including my husband, about this. My son-in-law is the only one who makes an effort. Trudy literally said that I live in her father's house, so I don't get to tell her what to do. My husband did not back me up, so I moved out. My apartment is now empty since the holidays are over. I said I didn't want them treating my property like they were treating my husband's home. They're all mad at me for leaving and changing the plan. She actually threatened to sue me since they have a signed lease. I told her to go ahead since I would prove that I never got the agreed upon deposit or first or last month's rent, which we were going to cover to help them out. I've been here for a week now and it's great. No noise, no mess, a much better commute for me to work. My husband has been spending a few nights a week here with me. He wants me to come home and give them the apartment like we agreed. I said I would do that if we went back to his house that minute and it was in good shape. It was not. It was disgusting, like it smelled bad. It was like if 5 teenage boys were living there with no supervision. She saw me looking around in disgust and said that it wasn't her fault and that the mess was because they don't have their own living space. Yeah, sure. I turned around and went back to my place. I offered to let my husband move in with me if he wants them to have their own space. He won't because he's retired and likes where he is. So, like I said, they're all mad at me now. My husband, Trudy, her kids. Trudy's husband is the only one who understands my position. I will no longer agree to let them in my apartment and I will only move back once they leave. Not the jerk. You're so obviously in the right here. It was generous of you to offer your apartment in the first place. Then she was untidy and rude in your home. And that BS about it being her dad's home, did she not process that under the same logic, the apartment is your home? I get that divorced or remarried dads often have a bit of a guilt complex around their kids, especially daughters, but he's already doing all that he can. You can't expect to stay with people long term and be a burden on them with chores and housekeeping. It seems the son-in-law is totally understanding in the situation. I wonder if your husband can talk to your son-in-law about it. You could also show your husband the responses you inevitably get here. As a side note, I don't think son-in-law will stick around together with such a mismatch in how much work they do and general manners. He deserves better too. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law to pay me $700 for the lost coat when I bought it for $100? Last year, I was at the mall with my fiance when I saw this awesome cashmere and wool coat. It was perfect in every way, and there was only one left in my size. The best news was that it was on clearance for $100, so I bought it without a second thought. I've worn it several times last year, but it hasn't been cold enough this year for me to break out the coat. Last week, when I saw the news about the upcoming cold front, I decided it was time to take it to the dry cleaners so that I can wear it this week. After tearing all of my closets apart without seeing it, I asked my fiance if she had seen it. She told me that she hadn't seen me wear it in a while, so she lent it to her brother to wear to a wedding. I was annoyed at hearing this, but decided not to make a big deal, so I simply told her to tell her brother to bring it back so I could get it dry cleaned. Thursday rolls around and he hasn't brought it back, so I asked her about it again. Nothing. Come Friday, and I haven't heard anything, so I called him. He said that he told my wife on Tuesday that he got drunk at the wedding and lost my coat. I was super annoyed at this, so I told him he owes that exact coat from the exact same brand. Last night, my fiance came home from work in a bad mood and handed me $100. She said that her brother dropped off the money and I shouldn't have made her brother pay for the coat since I knew he doesn't make very much and I haven't worn it but a handful of times. I looked at the $100 and I told her I wanted a replacement coat or the amount it currently cost so that I can buy a new one and that $100 won't cover it. She said he went to the store and it cost $700 now, but she knew I only paid $100 for it, so she told him $100 would cover the cost. I argued that $100 doesn't buy me a new coat. We went back and forth but couldn't find any common ground. She offered to throw in an extra $100 of her own money and said sarcastically that I'm coming out ahead. I argued that I'm still out of code and nothing will satisfy my loss except for a replacement code. She argued that I don't have to have the exact same code and that I can buy a similar one with $200. She thought I was being ridiculous and called her parents on speakerphone. Of course, they sided with their kids, and her dad tried to say that a man shouldn't be so hung up on a code. I told him that a man replaces what he loses. So now they're all mad at me for wanting to make a profit from their son and implying that he's not a man. Am I wrong for wanting the same coat as a replacement? Not the jerk. I don't see this as an attempt to make a profit. I see this as a man wanting his coat replaced. Just so happens the value of the coat went up. Brother-in-law needs to have some integrity and take personal responsibility. He borrowed the coat and he lost it. As a man, you pay your debts. Brother-in-law is a jerk for losing the coat, but it happens, and the manly, correct response is to replace it. Girlfriend is definitely a jerk for lending the coat out without talking to you about it first. Girlfriend is also a jerk for not being forthcoming with OP about brother-in-law losing the coat. Girlfriend is a major jerk for deciding how much brother-in-law should pay to replace the coat on her own without consulting OP. There are some red flags with your girlfriend that you should probably take into consideration. I mistakenly accused my boyfriend of cheating on me. Now he says he wants to break up. I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 2 years. Never had any real problems until now. He moved to a new job about 4 months ago and is being mentored into the job by a senior female employee. She calls him after work hours too to make sure that the work is on schedule and to inform him of various responsibilities of the next day. I've been okay with all of this until one day she called him around bedtime and asked him if he could pick her up in the morning because of some problems with her car. I found this unnecessary and told him not to do it. He said it was okay for one day and did pick her up in the morning. I argued with him in the evening and told him that I find her calling him outside of work to be uncomfortable. He rejected that and said she only says things about work, and as she mentors him, he can't just ask her to not call anymore. This has been going on for some time, but the breaking point came yesterday. One of my friends called me yesterday afternoon and told me that she saw my boyfriend eating lunch in a restaurant with another woman. She described the woman, and I was sure that it was the mentor. In my mind, I was almost sure that it was nothing, but still, when he came home, I exploded and screamed at him and accused him of cheating on me with her. I shouted over him for a good 30 minutes. When I calmed down, he looked livid and showed me a photo on his phone. It was a selfie of him and several of his colleagues having lunch, and it was just that he and the mentor took a smaller single table by the side of the extended one. I apologized a lot, but he said that he doesn't feel comfortable that I'm getting insecure over him working with a woman. This morning, he told me that he needed some space and went to his friend's house. He's not taking my calls anymore, and I want to go over to his friend's house to talk to him. How can I convince him that I know that I went overboard with my reaction? Update. I was distraught, and the opinions are understandably against me. I understand from reading many of them that I might be BPD. I'm planning to go to therapy and counseling. I've sent him a message saying this, and that he can take as much time as he wants, and that I would completely understand if he wants to break up. As for people asking why I screamed at him when I didn't think there was a problem, I really don't know. At that moment, I couldn't control myself, and all of the irritation I felt from her spending time with him must have come out. If he asked you to give him some space, give him some space. He left this morning, so wait at least a day until you try to contact him again. He might sort his thoughts out and come back to you. I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% not my dad's son. For as long as I can remember, my parents' marriage has been happy and stable. They were high school sweethearts, and my dad proposed to her at their senior prom, or so they say. Nowadays, they're your stereotypical old couple, just as in love as the day they married. For Thanksgiving, one of my friends bought DNA kits for our whole friend group. He's super into genealogy and family trees and wanted to share his hobby, I guess. I just got my results back, and my biological father was found. Except he's not the man who I grew up calling my dad. He's some random guy from New Jersey. He hasn't reached out to me, and I have no intention of reaching out to him. I have to admit, he does look like me, but he doesn't look like my sister at all. That means that either my sister is my dad's real daughter or that my mom cheated multiple times. I do know that my dad's family has a history of fertility issues and that his identical twin brother can't have kids at all. I don't want to blow up my parents' lives, and regardless of my DNA, my dad is still my dad. He raised me and loves me like his own, and that's all that matters to me. But there's a voice in the back of my mind telling me to tell him because my dad deserves to know that his wife cheated and that he raised another man's kid. But then, will he ever look at me the same? What if he disowns me out of rage? And what about my mom? She lives off his pension and home business. But she's a cheater, so maybe I shouldn't consider her feelings. I don't know. I had to tell someone, so I figured Reddit might be a good place. I'm going to think about what I should do for a while before taking any drastic action. I have the power to destroy my parents' lives, and I don't take that lightly. Update. So first off, I just want to say y'all were half right. Secondly, I wanted to explain in more depth why I didn't think it could be a donor. My family, my dad especially, hold honesty as one of their highest values. The angriest I've ever seen my dad was when I covered up a bad grade in school. My point is that lying is considered the greatest sin in my dad's eyes. He always told me that a man is only as good as his word. The thought of my dad keeping something like that from me was nearly unthinkable. I called my mom the other day and explained about the DNA test. She chuckled, and instead of confessing to cheating like I thought she would, or to using a donor like you guys thought she would, she said to me, "I guess we couldn't keep this forever. Okay, I guess it's time you knew." And then proceeded to tell me this absolutely wild story. She told me what I'd already guessed about my dad's fertility, that he's completely unable to have biological kids. Apparently, my parents didn't have the cash to pay for a donor or an adoption, but they wanted a kid more than anything in the world. What they agreed to do was for my mom to drive to the next state over and hook up with guys there in hopes to get pregnant. Apparently, she tried to choose guys who had similar features to my dad so that the extended family wouldn't get suspicious. Luckily for my parents, my sister came out looking like a clone of my mom. 3 years later, my parents did the same thing, and that's where I came from. As I said before, I look nothing like my dad. I do have some features from my mom's side of the family, but absolutely none from my dad's side. Other than that, I have lots of freckles, and so does my dad and a few of his relatives. Turns out, my biological father is also covered in freckles. I asked my mom if my sister knows, and she said that my sister doesn't know. My mom asked me for help telling my sister because my sister has been hinting that she wants a DNA test before having kids, which she wants to have soon. I agreed. I'll be going over to my sister's place to talk to her soon, and the current plan is to have my parents on Zoom. I don't think I'll be updating again, so get your "I told you so's" out of the way now. Am I the jerk for reminding my parents that my stepsister ruined our family's future? I grew up in a big blended family where we all consider ourselves siblings, and I consider my stepmom my mom. All of us kids are close except for one, my stepsister Leanna, fake name. My parents think it's just because she didn't grow up with the rest of us, but that it's fine, and it's not. Yes, by the time she came to live with us, she was almost 18, but it's not because of that. It's because she cost the rest of us our futures. See, when she came to live with us, she had been independently homeschooled. She was said to be very smart, but testing revealed that she only had about a 9th grade education and no transferable credits. Neither our school or the public school were willing to place her above 9th grade. Since she was only about a month from turning 18, this would mean she would be in high school until her 21st birthday and would more likely than not have to drop out anyway. The only other option was to have her get a GED. They were devastated, especially because she had an offer from family friends to get her into and through college if she did a specific program that she did have advanced education in. If she didn't graduate that year, they would question how bad it was and likely rescind the offer. The only other option was for her to get a GED, which would force the family friend to rescind the offer even if they still wanted to help, because she could never get accepted with a GED. My parents worried over this until someone they knew who was the admin of another private school offered to help out. They offered to enroll her as a senior and she could spend the year catching up, provided they saw it in their hearts to give a donation, of course. $100,000 later, she graduated from an accredited high school and moved on to college. My family's just normal middle class, so paying that meant the rest of us had to take out massive student loans, and my youngest siblings even had to switch to public school. My older brother got some help before this, but there wasn't a dime for the rest of us. My parents justify it by saying that they had to do it because it was their job to give all of their kids as close to an equal start to their lives as possible, and this was the only option to do that for her. My mom asked why we all have strained relationships with Leanna, and it finally came out that truthfully, we resent her for the huge financial load on us and the entire family that she caused. It's been 10 years, and she's never even tried to apologize or make amends, and it's grating. Now my father says that mom has fallen into a depression because nobody loves Leanna but her, and that we weren't a family despite everything she's ever done. We are a family, just not with Leanna. Are we really in the wrong? You're the jerk. I kept waiting for the point in the story where Leanna did something to you or your siblings to make you hate her. That point never came. Someone clearly did Leanna very wrong by homeschooling her rather than sending her to a real school. And it's really sad that your parents had to stump up so much money to rectify this damage. You said she graduated and moved on to college, so clearly she didn't waste away the money that your parents spent on her. I can understand how it feels unfair that this money was spent on her and you didn't get it. But realistically, all that it did was get her to the same place that you got anyway without it. And that's a high school diploma. They didn't pay for her college. Finally, it doesn't sound like your future has been destroyed because you went to college too, and if you really had massive loans, then your small share of that $100,000 would barely make a dent. Your resentment dripped from your post, and this is entirely misplaced. Grow up. Am I the jerk for staying in a marriage for 10 years to make sure I got alimony? My ex-husband, 35 male, and I, 29 female, had been married for 10 years. He was the only kid of an elderly couple. I've taken care of his mother for my entire marriage since she needed a caretaker. 5 years ago, I found out he was cheating. We had signed a prenup that said that we would leave with the assets we had come into the marriage with. I didn't have a full-time job because I had to take care of his mother. I didn't get a salary from my caretaking, but I spent my entire marriage taking care of her and her various health issues. It didn't have a clause against cheating. I spoke to a couple of lawyers, and they said that even if the prenup is thrown out, which it may or may not be depending on the judge, my husband has an inheritance from his father and can afford to bleed me dry in court. However, the prenup had a 10-year clause. I stayed for another 5 years. Some people choose to stay and reconcile. I chose to stay and make sure I didn't get done over. I filed for divorce after 10 years of marriage, and my husband was blindsided. The assets were split down the middle, and I was essentially compensated for the caretaking that I did. He's calling me cruel and calculating for what I did. He's also scrambling because there's no one left to take care of his mother. I told him to use his inheritance to actually buy her a caretaker that she can't take advantage of. I have a boyfriend, and I'm really happy with my life, but I still get messages from my ex-husband blaming me. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It looks like you got compensated for time served. I suppose a question for your husband is, was it also calculated when arranging meetups with his mistress because he knew his wife would be busy with his mother? Don't marry the boyfriend. Drain that alimony. Exactly. I divorced my ex after 16 years of marriage and 2 kids for many reasons, some of which are similar in terms of my sacrifices and his gains. A few years after divorce, I found out he also stole tens of thousands of dollars from the marital assets. I struggle financially due to delaying my own education in corporate climb, one of my sacrifices, while he's earned over 6 figures for 20 years because of my sacrifices and support. I have a boyfriend who also doesn't want to remarry, and we are very happy together. I'm eyeing the ex's social security income and won't remarry because I would become ineligible to receive it. Gotta play that long game. Divorced my ex after 13 years. Only worked part-time after our sons were born. Then worked years at jobs that paid under the table because that's what was available. Retired now and collecting half of his social security. Go for it. Neighbor goes full-on Karen after I kept her Amazon package that was delivered to my address. 2 weeks ago, Amazon dropped off a package on my doorstep. I left it there and I went to the store. When I came back, it was still there. I took it inside, called Amazon customer service. After being asked for and giving the associate the name, tracking number, and contents of said package, I was told that their policy was to either keep it or trash it. I kept a part of it, threw the rest away. Last night, the owner of the package knocked on my door loudly. I answered it, and she immediately accused me of stealing her stuff. I apologized and asked what was she talking about. I had completely forgotten about it at this point. She mentions that she had a camera in her car and it recorded Amazon dropping off the item. Plus, they take photos of the home number, and she was contemplating getting the police involved. I remembered the items and asked about the specific one. She confirmed it was hers, then went into a story about Amazon not replacing the items or refunding her money, and I apologized again and explained the situation, my actions, and what I was told by Amazon. And since I still had one part of her package, I gave it to her. She left after repeating her concerns and assumptions about our thievery. Today, literally 30 minutes ago, I learned that she previously took her complaints to the only neighbor that I know and am friendly with in the complex, bothering him at his job for over 10 minutes, calling my family thieves and threatening police action. So, am I the jerk for keeping and trashing someone else's property? Edit. The individual unit or apartment number was not on the package, just her name and the townhouse, condo, and complex address itself. There's no manager office, no lobby, no communal area, no communal mailbox. It's a townhouse/condo type situation. I also didn't know her before last night. I don't exactly speak to the neighbors except for mainly one. Not the jerk. There was no communal area or leasing office to put it in per OP. 2. You called Amazon. 3. She waited 2 weeks. Clearly it wasn't that important to her. Not the jerk. It's amazing how few people in this sub understand how Amazon works. You aren't responsible to do their job. You have no duty to track down the actual recipient and get them the package. It's unlikely that the person who came to your door hadn't already received a refund or a new item and was just there to get the item you were told to keep. If she knew the item was at your place, which she clearly knew, why did she wait so long to knock on your door? As a former Amazon customer service rep, I'm going to say not the jerk. This is exactly Amazon's policy. If a package is delivered to the wrong address, the person is told that they should trash it or keep it. And when the person who should have received it calls, they'll be eligible for refund or replacement, depending on the product. The neighbor is full of it. Amazon took care of her. That's 100% company policy. They're not going to refuse to make it right when it's clear it was delivered to the wrong address. Also, the Amazon rep could see who it should have gone to, but is not allowed to tell OP to protect the original customer's privacy. The neighbor came after OP to try to get double what she ordered, the original and the replacement. Also, if she has it on camera, why did she wait 2 weeks to ask about it? OP did the right thing by calling Amazon about the mistaken delivery. It is unreasonable to expect someone in OP's situation to take responsibility for Amazon's error. The neighbor received a refund or replacement. That's their policy. Neighbor is the jerk here. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their neighbor? Please let us know. I can't even tell you how many times Amazon has delivered the wrong stuff to our house. We always take it to the house that it actually belongs to, but that's because we can see their address on it. Am I the jerk for wanting to talk to my daughter's new teacher about being nicer to the kids? My daughter's preschool hired a new teacher or teacher's aide who's in their early 20s, female, earlier this year. My daughter adores this teacher, and my wife, who is also a teacher, speaks highly of her. We just had a baby, so I've been taking care of drop-off and pickup lately, and I've been able to form my own opinion of this teacher. In my opinion, she messes with the kids too much. These are all examples that I've seen. For Christmas, we got every teacher a box of chocolates from a small shop near the school. The shop wrapped the boxes, and they have the name of the shop on the wrapping paper. Everyone knows what it is by looking at it. My daughter ran in yelling, "We got you chocolate," and the teacher said, "Abby, it was supposed to be a surprise." She still hugged my daughter and thanked her, but I felt that remark was unnecessary. Another time, I picked my daughter up towards the end of snack time. My daughter came up to the teacher and asked for more snacks. Teacher said, "Abby, you already ate all of our snacks. If I give you more, we won't have anything to eat tomorrow. You're about to go home and have dinner anyways." In my opinion, the first two sentences were very unnecessary. The last one just happened on Friday. Pickup ends at 4:30, and I'm guessing the teacher leaves at 4:45. I called the school and said that I was going to be late for pickup, and I got there at around 4:45. When I got there, my daughter was with a boy whose parents had been there for 20 minutes and he was refusing to leave. My daughter was getting her stuff, and I saw the teacher give the boy a spray bottle, a rag, and gloves and say, "Jack, if you want to stay, you're going to have to clean the tables, then vacuum. I have to go home, and your mom can't wait forever." She went to the closet, got her stuff, and started walking to the door. His mom also started to walk away. The boy dropped the cleaning supplies, started crying, and ran for his mom when the teacher made it to the door and his mom was out of sight. In my opinion, there had to have been a better way to get him to go than scaring him like that. I get that she's joking, but these kids are 3 and 4 and don't get it. My daughter has never admitted to this teacher making her upset, but I still don't like how she talks to my daughter or the other kids. My wife and I were talking about the school, and I said that I wanted to talk to the teacher about being nicer to my daughter and the other kids. My wife rolled her eyes at me and said that I'm starting to sound like a certain parent at her school that she and the other teachers can't stand. and that if I insist that everyone coddles our daughter, then she's going to have a hard time when she's older. Am I the jerk for not liking the teacher and wanting her to be nicer? You're the jerk. The teacher sounds perfectly nice, and correcting kids is part of her job. Wow. So this teacher, who's an expert on childcare, is helping guide children to be good little humans who have empathy towards others, making sure to save snacks for everyone else the next day and be helpful. What a monster. Instead of saying no to children's requests, she's telling them the answer is no and then gently redirecting them. And you think it's mean-spirited joking? Yet somehow your wife and your daughter love this teacher. You're the jerk, man, and it's clear it's your wife that does the bulk of the childcare. You wouldn't even know anything about this teacher if your wife hadn't been occupied with the birth of your new baby. Why don't you stop and think about that for a while? My boyfriend's mom is demanding I pay rent to her for staying over a few nights a week. So I, 19 female, and my boyfriend, 20 male, live separately. I have a place of my own that I rent, but my boyfriend lives with his mom still because she's pretty sick and has no one else to care for her. I stay over there pretty often, maybe 2 to 3 nights a week, because my boyfriend works night shifts and his mom still needs someone to look after her. So I'm more than happy to stay over and do whatever needs to be done. However, now she's asking me to pay $350 a month for staying around so often. This honestly baffles me because I literally only stay there overnight a few times a week. I barely use her food. I have the odd shower, but that's it. I certainly don't use $350 worth of her stuff a month. This is on top of the $350 that my boyfriend pays her, which is fair enough because he lives there full time. Why should I pay rent on her house when I already have a place of my own that's quite expensive? I told her no, that's not fair, but now she's angry with me. My boyfriend is on my side, but I can't help but feel like I could be the jerk. 3 nights a week is almost half of the week, to be honest. It sounds like you should just stay at your own place from now on. Not the jerk. This woman should be paying you, if anything. Stop going there without your boyfriend present. Stay over less frequently, even when he is there. Not the jerk. My wife was seen holding hands with another man. My wife, 36 female, and I, 40 male, have been together for 5 years and we got married last year. We definitely have our ups and downs, but we're generally pretty happy. On Friday, she went out with people from her work for Christmas drinks and arrived home around midnight, absolutely hammered. She just said that she'd had a good time and went straight to bed. Yesterday, I got a message on her Instagram from an anonymous account claiming to be one of her colleagues, saying she'd been flirting all night with one of the guys from the office, who's 44 male, and they had left together at about 9 to walk to the train station. The colleague had a couple more drinks, then went to the station herself, and says that she saw my wife walking hand in hand with this guy through the station at about 10:45. They didn't see her. Last night, I showed her the messages and I asked her for an explanation. She claims she was so drunk she doesn't remember anything that happened after 8. I asked if she went somewhere with the guy after they left the group, and she checked the location history on her phone, which confirmed they had gone to a bar near the station for about an hour. They arrived at the station at 10:40. She gave me her phone and insisted I check it, and there were no suspicious messages or anything. As far as I could tell, she doesn't have the guy's number in her phone, and they're not following each other on Instagram or friends on Facebook. I asked if she was flirting with him, and she admitted that she was talking mostly to him all night, but that's just because he's the only person in her office she has anything in common with, and that they are just friends and it wasn't flirting. She mentioned this guy to me before, and she said how much they have in common. I asked if they were holding hands, and she said she doesn't remember, but she doesn't think so. She claims to know who sent me the messages and says it's a woman in the office who hates her, although she doesn't know why. Today she's been in a terrible mood and we've not really spoken. So that's where we are. I'm not sure what to do. Is this a big red flag like it seems to be? Update. Sam came home from work on Monday and casually said that she had spoken with the guy, Tom, and he had confirmed that they hadn't held hands, they had just been walking arm in arm because she was drunk and wearing heels. I asked why her colleague, Helen, would make an Instagram account, track me down, and message me saying they held hands if it wasn't true. She said Helen is basically in love with Tom and made a pass at him just after his divorce, but he rejected her. I asked why Helen would feel threatened by her. She said because her and Tom are friends and Helen's a crazy, jealous jerk, as evidenced by the Instagram message. I asked why she went for a drink with just her and Tom. She said that according to Tom, they walked past this bar with an amazing live band playing, so they stopped in for a drink. Her only regret was doing too many shots too early and getting drunk. The next day, she went shopping after work and came home with a new dress. I asked her what the occasion was, and she said her work Christmas party. Last week was just drinks with people from her office. The company Christmas party is on Friday. Apparently, she had mentioned this. I hardly slept that night. The next day, I decided to reply to the Instagram message to get some more info. I asked, "Do you think anything's going on with them?" Helen, I assume, quickly replied with a long message saying that they flirt at work and everyone's noticed. Apparently, Sam was going to be let go, but Tom put in a good word, so she kept her job. Tom protects her in the office and will constantly defend her. She also said that Sam complains about me to the whole office, and it's clear we don't have a happy marriage. I asked if she was going to the Christmas party, and she said she was. She said she'd update me if anything happened. Sam finished work early on Friday, so she had time to get ready. She looked amazing, and I really didn't want her to go, but I felt like I couldn't say anything. I got an Instagram message at about midnight saying that Sam and Tom hadn't interacted at the party, but that people from the office had decided to leave and go to a different bar. They all left just before 11 and were at the new bar by 10 past. Sam and Tom turned up just before midnight. Sam arrived home at about 2 a.m., not quite as drunk as last time, and went straight to sleep. I pretended to be fast asleep. I looked at the location history on her phone. After leaving the venue, she had taken a 3-mile detour to a residential street, stayed for half an hour, then gone to the bar. I sent the address to Helen. She didn't reply until the next morning when she said that was Tom's house. When Sam woke up, I just asked her straight up if she cheated on me with Tom last night. She angrily denied it. I told her that I knew she'd been to Tom's house. She accused me of spying on her, called me controlling, said she was going to stay with her sister. I demanded an explanation, and she said she went to his house so they could smoke before heading to the bar. Then she stormed out. She wouldn't reply to my messages or answer my calls all day Sunday. I called her sister, who said she hadn't seen her, but she texted me later that she had spoken to Sam and she was okay. Sam came home yesterday morning. I asked where she had been, and she just told me she couldn't do this anymore and wants a divorce. She went to start packing some clothes while I tried to get her to talk to me. I asked if she was leaving me for Tom. She once again denied anything inappropriate had happened between them, but said my jealousy was the final straw. It's clear I don't trust her. I'm controlling. I take her for granted. She's deeply unhappy, has been for a while. So she's gone. It looks like I'll be spending my first Christmas alone. I have no idea if she was telling the truth or if it was an affair. Weirdly, I'm not feeling too bad today, so maybe this is for the best. Final update. Once she was gone, Sam blocked me on all of her social media and refused to return my messages or answer my calls. I ended up traveling to the other side of the country to spend Christmas with my parents. On Christmas Eve, Sam came home and took more of her stuff. I watched her on our security cameras. I tried phoning her, but she ignored my calls. Christmas wasn't great, and my parents were both shocked and in denial about what had happened. They had no idea we were having issues and insisted Sam would come to her senses and come home. Eventually, I just said that she had met someone else. I returned home on the 27th. I've been getting sporadic updates from Sam's sister, just letting me know she's alright, but without any details. Before all this happened, we had made plans to spend New Year's Eve at Sam's favorite bar in the city. I went on my own, but she didn't show up. On Tuesday night, I received an Instagram message from Helen saying that Sam and Tom had arrived at work together in Tom's car. I didn't bother replying. On Wednesday night, she sent another message saying Sam was poisoning the office against her and that Tom was pushing upper management to transfer her to another office or get rid of her. She begged me to do something. I texted Sam and said we needed to talk, but she didn't reply. So the next day, I called her work switchboard, gave a fake name, and got put through. I could tell she wasn't happy to hear my voice, but she agreed to meet up after work at a local pub and talk. I got there early, and she arrived 25 minutes late. She apologized for ignoring my calls and said she still cares about me and wants to end things on good terms. I said, just tell me the truth. She promised that she wasn't having an affair with Tom and that they were just friends. She admitted that they talk a lot in the office, but insisted it wasn't an emotional affair. She understands why I was suspicious after the Instagram message, but said I should have accepted her denial and trusted her. She has a lot of male friends, but she felt like she couldn't hang out with them because I'd get jealous. I pointed out that I've never told her not to hang out with anyone, but she said I'd be in a mood whenever she'd hang out with a guy friend. She feels like we only got married to try to fix a relationship that was already broken. Our conversations have devolved into small talk and we've drifted apart. I said I'd heard that she and Tom arrived at work together. Sam said she went to Tom's after I accused her of cheating and knew it was over between us. They spent the weekend together and agreed that they'd make a better couple than we did. She needed me to know that nothing happened between them until after she had told me she wanted a divorce, and now they were together, and she wanted me to hear it from her before I saw it on social media. Tom was waiting outside for her in the car. All I could do was stand up and walk out. Sam texted me saying she knew I was upset, but not to do anything stupid. I blocked her number. I'm not gonna lie, it was a rough night. The next day, I was just numb. I didn't really do much. Over the weekend, I dug out our marriage certificate so I can start divorce proceedings. I have no idea what to say to Helen, so I haven't replied. I think the plan now is to try and find a new job closer to my hometown. I moved across the country to be with Sam, and I've never really felt settled here. I also don't want to run into her and Tom around town. Luckily, we rent. Am I the jerk for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spend all of his savings? For a while now, my husband, John, has been getting more and more angry over little things and generally moody and distant. I had finally had enough and approached him about separation. This conversation led to a big blowout and him revealing the state of his finances. My husband and I have always kept our finances separate. Also, although we call each other husband and wife and had a wedding, we're not actually legally married. This was primarily for inheritance purposes because we each have older kids from previous relationships. Anyway, John revealed that he had basically no savings left, that all the money he had saved for retirement and for his kids' schooling was gone. Furthermore, he said it was all my fault since he used all of his savings up to try and keep up with my lifestyle. There was never anything crazy in terms of bills or anything like that, and we always split it all equally. The house we live in, I own outright as well, so there wasn't a mortgage payment. However, I've always liked to travel a lot on fairly extravagant vacations. I would invite John or John and his kids to join on trips, but never made them feel like they had to come. That said, he was expected to pay for himself and for his kids. Except for recently, he accepted every invitation. I would also give my kids things he considered extravagant, but I considered normal. So he felt like he had to give similar things to his own kids. John said with all the spending to keep up, his savings dwindled very fast. I expressed that I couldn't understand how or why he would spend all he had when he knew he couldn't afford it. He said it was like keeping up with the Joneses, only worse because it was at home, so he couldn't block it out. John thinks since I knew his job, I should have had a basic understanding of his finances and realized this wasn't a lifestyle he could maintain. That the kind thing would have been to offer to pay for the trips and other things instead of dangle them in front of him and his kids' faces. Looking back, I probably could have realized that this spending didn't make sense for his salary, but I wasn't thinking about it. I don't think it was my responsibility to keep his finances in mind here. We had agreed from the beginning to keep our finances separate, so to me, that means paying for things separately. Also, we do not live in a state with common law marriage. Update. Last week, things settled down, so we met up to have a more detailed discussion about the state of his finances. A few more things were revealed. I found out that he had lost his job earlier this year and didn't tell me. He got a new job in October, but he went over 4 months without one while pretending he still had one. During that time, he only got a small amount of money from unemployment, so he started putting everything on his credit cards. His new job doesn't pay as much as his old one did, so he hasn't been able to pay more than the minimum towards his debts, which are now substantial. I feel like if he had just brought up all of these issues earlier, this could have been avoided, or we could have worked something out. Now I really just feel like I can't trust him. I can't trust him with money, and I can't trust him not to hide things from me. I just can't see going back and trying to make things work with him at this point. Since he doesn't have a place to take all their things, I've agreed to store their stuff in my garage until he gets more settled, which means I won't be able to make as clean of a break as I would like to right now, but for the most part, it's over. His ego got in the way of real communication. Lying about a job for 4 months isn't something one can come back from. 4 months of lies, spending on credit cards, and started nitpicking about dishes and little things. OP would be wise to end it. Am I the jerk for marrying my sister's ex? I'm 27 female, and my sister, 29 female. We've been fighting recently for something that I thought got resolved a long time ago. I've debated posting this for like a week now, but figured someone not directly involved would be good to hear from. A couple of months ago, I married my husband, Greg, who's 29, after being together for 4 years. We met each other working at the same office, and I developed a huge crush on him. I was pretty sure that he was into me too, so I decided to bring it up to my sister, Alicia. Alicia and Greg had dated back when they were in middle school, and because it had been so long and they were so young, I didn't think there would be an issue. but I still wanted to check. I didn't want to accidentally start dating some long-lost love of her life or something, so I thought I would clear the air by asking. She seemed a bit surprised because I don't think she was expecting to hear about her middle school ex-boyfriend randomly so many years later. But after we talked about it, she said that she didn't really care. So I thought, cool, I have the go-ahead. I thanked her and moved on with things, and a little while later, me and Greg got together. It's never seemed to be an issue before recently. We hit all the milestones, and she seemed to be happy for us. When he met my family again, they were a bit surprised, but things were fine. My sister was even one of my bridesmaids and seemed happy for me the entire time, like I haven't really thought of them dating in forever because it no longer seems relevant. I mean, she has a husband at this point, so it doesn't seem like a middle school boyfriend would mean anything to her now. We were with my family this Christmas, and things were going just fine, as they usually are, until my sister started handing out the presents she had gotten. Now, we don't get each other presents every year, and people in my family typically aren't buying special presents for people they're not close to. But during my wedding planning, she said she wanted to get me something special for my first Christmas as a married woman, so it took me off guard. I looked sort of confused for a second, but I didn't want to be a jerk on Christmas, so I just smiled and watched everyone open their gifts. Lots of circumstances could cause someone to not be able to get a gift, so it was fine. But after she finished handing things out, she looked at me and said I wasn't getting anything because I had taken enough. I asked her what she meant because, what? And she said I didn't have to be so weird to plot to take Greg from her. I'll admit, I had a crush on him when I was younger, but I didn't plan my life around dating him one day. I grabbed her and pulled her into the other room, and we started yelling at each other. I definitely said some mean things, because if she had an issue, why wouldn't she have brought it up when I talked to her before? We both wound up leaving my parents' house early, and her husband seemed super upset. My mom texted that she was disappointed we fought during Christmas, which yeah, I get that. But it's not like I did it intentionally. She's telling whatever family members will listen about how I stole her boyfriend, and so they're mad at me. And I don't feel like I could be the jerk, but I also can't tell. Greg's super upset because she's been trying to message him about this, and he doesn't get why this is such an issue. I've tried to speak with her a couple of times, and I brought up how I asked her already for permission, but she says that I took her off guard. So, am I the jerk? Update. A lot of you were correct about the marriage issues between my sister and her husband. The other night, my mom invited me over to talk about what was happening. First, she apologized for telling me she was disappointed. Her and my dad were just upset that there was drama on Christmas. I apologized for picking the fight during the gift exchange because I know I definitely could have waited until later. Her and my sister have been talking a lot the past couple of days. I have yet to talk to her in person. Alicia told my mom that her husband, Chris, had told Alicia that I had been flirting with him and tried to hook up with him. I would never do that, so this was a pretty big shock to hear. He had never been weird to me, so I had always been cordial, but I am in no way attracted to him. She had told my mom a couple of months back that Chris was interested in another woman, but never said who. They had been going to couples counseling to help, and Alicia told my mom it had been helping. We're not sure what caused her to snap at Christmas specifically, since beforehand she told my mom things were getting better. My mom had called her the night after we fought, and that's when my sister told her that I was the person Chris had been talking about. I just don't get why he'd pretend we had been flirting or why she'd even believe it. I've always been open about Greg, and I can't even think of the last time I've spoken to Chris without someone else present. I guess he wanted to avoid responsibility or something, but he didn't have to make that my issue. But the stealing comment she made towards me was because I guess she saw it as once as a coincidence, two as a pattern, and thought I was some evil jerk who wanted every guy she had. When my mom called me over, she didn't think I was doing anything with Chris, but she still asked to make sure, which really hurt me to be honest. It's not like I can prove I'm not doing something, but she believes me at least. Since we've talked, she's been doing damage control on all my relatives who my sister was telling I was stealing her husband. This whole thing would have been easier if she had just talked to me about it. My mom said she would try to talk to Alicia some more to convince her I'm not trying to steal her husband. Greg's upset. He's upset at my whole family pretty much, but mostly Alicia and Chris. She texted Greg yesterday, "OP only loves you because you were mine." He blocked her after that. I don't know. I was hoping the reasoning would have been something else. I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if my relationship with her can come back from this, and I refuse to be anywhere near Chris. My boyfriend of 9 years won't marry me. I, 38 female, have been in a long-term, loving relationship with Aaron, 37 male, since 2016. We've been living together since 2017, raise 3 cats, and even own a car together. The trouble started last weekend when we had dinner with my mom and stepdad. It started out as a really good dinner. Everybody was laughing and having a good time. The subject of buying a house was brought up, and both my mom and stepdad announced that they wanted to help us out with a down payment. My stepdad said nonchalantly that it would be a nice wedding gift. I noticed Aaron's demeanor change immediately. His face grew pale and he started sweating. I knew the subject of marriage to Aaron is a really sticky subject because his previous girlfriend before me pressured him to get married, and that's why they inevitably split. We never talked about it because it was such a touchy subject. Plus, our lives have been great, and after all, it is just a piece of paper, so I didn't want to trigger him. The rest of the night was pretty calm, but Aaron was quiet. When we got home, he went straight to bed. I thought that was pretty odd because I assumed my stepdad was just kidding. He had made some comments to me over the years concerning the subject, but I told him not to mention it in front of Aaron because of his past. Yesterday, I went to my parents' house and confronted my stepdad about the comment. He said that he wanted to make sure I wasn't being taken advantage of, and being married would help out a lot more with a first-time homebuyer loan. He said he wanted to make sure that if anything were to happen between Aaron and myself, that I would hold more ground with the house versus not being married. I'm not going to lie, it made a lot of sense until he said that I'm wasting my time with a man who wanted the wife experience but only gave boyfriend benefits to me. This really upset me, and even my mom scolded him on my way out. When I got home last night, I talked to Aaron and we had an emotional fight. It was the biggest fight we ever had. I explained my side to him and asked him what would happen if we broke up. I asked him if he would sell the house and split the money down the middle, which set him off even more. He accused me of speaking with his ex, Angie, who's 33, and said that she put me up to this. I said that these are important things to discuss, and if we were going to spend the rest of our lives together anyway, then what's a piece of paper? Plus, my health benefits aren't the best, so it would be beneficial in other ways besides the homebuyer's loan. This enraged him even more, and he started yelling so much that his lip ring fell out. He said that history is repeating itself and that he can't believe he's going to lose me the same way he lost Angie. They were together for 4.5 years before she started pressuring him. I said that their relationship was nothing like ours, because back then his credit was bad, so they couldn't afford as much as we can now. We talked until the early hours of the morning, and he said that my stepfather should have never offered it if it came with that manipulative stipulation, and that he wouldn't accept it and marriage would never be on the table. The topic of breaking up came up, and he said right now it's not financially wise to break up because we already have so many investments together and we can't afford to live on our own individually. We currently share a 2-bedroom apartment, split evenly. I'm at a loss. I really feel like I wasted 9 years of my life with this man. I don't know what to do or how to feel. He said that I should stay at my parents' until he calms down. It wasn't an issue until this last week. He can't believe his commitment issues will cause another long-term partner to leave him? He's meeting the consequences of his own actions and then screaming at you so hard his lip ring falls out and sending you away from your home you equally pay into. This is who you want to spend your life with? Your relationship is weak if after 9 years you can't discuss touchy subjects. Team stepdad. And he wants to stay with you for financial and housing reasons. Again, team stepdad. Seems pretty dumb of your stepdad to be scolded when he sees this for what it is. He can leave if he's so upset. He straight up told you the only reason he doesn't want to break up is because he needs your money. He can't afford to live without you. You, on the other hand, will be gifted a down payment, so it sounds like you can actually afford to live without him and might even be better off as you will be a homeowner. The issues he has for getting dumped because he wouldn't commit a decade ago is BS. He had a decade to get therapy for this issue and he didn't. He uses it as a weapon to stop you instead. Am I the jerk for refusing to speak with mother-in-law and canceling our wedding? I, 35 female, and fiancé, male 30, are considering canceling our wedding and eloping instead because of mother-in-law. Mother-in-law has never tried to have a positive relationship with me. She makes sure I'm not included in conversations, belittles my achievements, and talks down to me. Things escalated when I was planning fiancé's 30th birthday. Mother-in-law fought me on every detail and accused me of not knowing my fiancé at all. I planned a golf weekend away for him and his family. He loves golf. Fiancé confronted mother-in-law and asked why she didn't like me. She admitted she doesn't like me. Doesn't like my partner driving me to his family events. Didn't like that it took me a month to find employment when I moved to a different town to be with fiancé. Fiancé receives calls and texts from mother-in-law daily. If he doesn't respond, she blames me. Fiancé told her if she doesn't stop this behavior towards me, he will no longer speak with her. I I agreed to meet with her to smooth things over and to try to move forward. Mother-in-law never took me up on it, but things seemed okay for a time. Fast forward to fiance's brother's wedding. Wedding day arrives, and we were to be at the venue at 4 p.m. 5 minutes to 2 p.m., fiance receives call from mother-in-law saying the family photo shoot is in 5 minutes. We hadn't been told of a family photo shoot. Mother-in-law demands we arrive at 2 for it. We frantically get ready and arrive at the house where the wedding was. There was never a photo shoot planned. Mother-in-law comes out in her PJs and tries to hand me suit shirts to iron. I refused. Mother-in-law snaps at me, asking where my son is. He was never coming. He's at the hotel. Mother-in-law continues stating everyone thought he would be there. I respond he was never coming and we RSVP'd, just us. She has been told multiple times that he wasn't coming. The ceremony is over and I started to have guests come up to me asking where my son is. I don't even know these people's names. I tell them he's at the hotel. Looks of disgust are thrown at me. My new friends stopped talking to me. I realized these people were being told my son was at the hotel, but not telling them how old he is. He's a teenager. The wedding was a place of ridicule and disgust on me. Christmas Day at mother-in-law's house, her family scurry away from me on arrival, refusing to hug or greet me. One man, whom I had met once 2 years ago, aggressively accused me of leaving my son alone on Christmas Day. Son was at father's place this year. The rumor has continued, and now not only does my mother-in-law hate me, so does her family. I made up an excuse to announce the fact my son was a teenager whom just finished his first year in high school at the top of his class. Everyone's jaws dropped. None of them knew he was a teenager. Mother-in-law hurried out of the room. Now fiancé wants to cancel the wedding and elope because of mother-in-law. Fiancé is demanding I speak with mother-in-law one last time in order for him to cut her off. Am I the jerk for not wanting to confront mother-in-law and for canceling the wedding? Not the jerk. But is this what you want? Since your fiancé backs you, why can't you have a wedding, if that's what you two want, and just not invite his mom and other people? You two still deserve to be celebrated, and I sure wouldn't give up a day I wanted because of her. She hates you. Your partner needs to get a handle on this. Either he lays down the law and cuts them out, or I suggest breaking up. My partner and I went to counseling over this, and you're either a team or you're not. Even if he maintained a relationship and they kept talking about you like this, he'd be letting you down. The only way he could have his family in his life and you is if he actually creates firm boundaries with his family. My wife expects me, a pro athlete, to wake up in the middle of the night to help with the baby. My wife, Katie, 25 female, and I, 28 male, had our first baby together about 3 months ago. I'm an athlete and Katie is a stay-at-home mom. Sleep is very important for me because of my sport. I can't be waking up multiple times throughout the night and be sleep deprived. Katie and I talked about this before trying for a kid, and I told her that I can't compromise my sleep for anything short of an emergency. I specifically mentioned that I wouldn't be waking up during the night to help with the baby, but we could hire a night nurse to help out. Things had been going smoothly until a few days ago, when Katie was being cold and distant. I asked if something was wrong, and she said everything was fine. She was quiet for a while, then finally mentioned that it's extremely unfair that I'm not helping her at all with the baby during the night. I acknowledged that she has been working hard and not getting much sleep, but we also previously agreed to this arrangement. Katie has refused to hire a night nurse to help because she doesn't trust someone new to watch our baby alone during the night. I suggested that she could have a family member help, but she didn't want to burden them. So we've been at an impasse. She still doesn't want to hire help, and I'm still not waking up during the night. Additional info. We have a maid that cleans and does the laundry multiple times per week, and we also have a meal delivery service that makes the majority of our food, so I'm not just dumping tons of housework on her. Katie doesn't have a problem with the maid being around the baby because she's known her for a while now. We've also been going to regular doctor and therapist appointments. They don't think she's suffering from postpartum. Hiring a night nurse would not be a financial burden, so the cost isn't the issue. I spend as much time as I can caring for and bonding with our baby, just not during the night when I'm sleeping. Edit for clarity. I'm a professional athlete, and my sport is our primary source of income. Update. Some of you mentioned the idea of doing a test run period with a night nurse helping out during the day while other people are awake and around, which I think is a good idea. I talked to Katie about hiring a night nurse to temporarily help out during the day, and she agreed and seemed happy about the idea. That way she can get familiar with the new nurse and feel more comfortable about transitioning to a full night type of arrangement. She also apologized for lashing out at me and explained that she was mostly too embarrassed to ask her family for more help when she already has hired help as a stay-at-home mom. So we agreed to ask my sister since they have a really good relationship. My sister has offered to come by 1 or 2 nights per week to watch our son until Katie's comfortable having the night nurse be full-time and alone. That way, Katie immediately gets at least some uninterrupted sleep too for now. As some of you figured out, I play baseball. Season officially starts in late March with spring training late February, so I won't be home much because of travel schedule. So that at least gives us a couple of months to get comfortable with a night nurse and a nanny so she isn't too overwhelmed. Not the jerk. I thought this would be the normal story of the wife doing all of the baby stuff, cooking, cleaning, etc. But you have a maid and food service, so she mostly just does the baby stuff. And seeing as how this is the only thing you've told her and made clear before even having a baby, plus giving her multiple solutions, you're definitely not the jerk. Not the jerk. You clearly set boundaries and offered alternatives, but maybe you can give a little. Is there a night of the week that you can let the wife sleep? Maybe have whoever the night nanny would be over for some day nanny stuff to build trust. You shouldn't compromise your profession, especially athletic ones that have health and injury risks that would also compromise your future earnings. But maybe this is a sign your wife just needs more help than she thought, and you gotta adapt somehow. No jerks here. I absolutely sympathize with your wife. I do. It's so hard in the beginning. Give her some grace. Sleep deprivation is no joke and can totally change a person. Is there maybe even 1 night a week you can help? An off season where you can help a bit? I hope if things don't improve with the baby's sleep, she will hire a night nurse so she isn't so resentful, as unfortunately, it sounds like that's where things are going. Best of luck to you all. Am I the jerk for yelling at my boyfriend's dad to let me out of the Tesla if he was going to let it drive itself? I spent last night with my boyfriend's family. We had gone out to dinner and his dad was going to drive. So my boyfriend, me, his parents, and his brother all squeezed into his dad's car and we went to the restaurant. I had a few drinks and his dad had too since he was going to drive. But on the way back, his dad started asking me, "You work on self-driving cars, yeah?" I do. I'm a systems engineer. He started asking me how I liked his Tesla, and I joked, "Just fine, as long as you're the one driving it." And he asked me what I thought about full self-driving, which he had just bought. He asked me if he should turn it on. I said, "Not with me in the car." And he then laughed and asked how I was still so scared when I work with this stuff every day. I was like, it's because but stopped when he pulled over and literally started turning it on. I was like, "I'm not kidding. Let me out of the car if you're going to do this." And my boyfriend's dad and brother started laughing at me, and my boyfriend still wasn't saying anything. His dad was like, "It'll be fine." And I reached over my boyfriend's brother and I tried to open the door, which was locked. I was getting mad, and probably more so because I was tipsy, and I yelled at him, "Let me out!" My boyfriend started trying to tell me to calm down because I was drunk, and I told him that it didn't matter. I'd be out of here if I was sober or drunk. He told me to stop talking like this in front of his little brother, and I told him to tell his dad to cut his crap out, and I wouldn't be acting this way. His dad was like, "Fine, I didn't realize it'd be such a big deal," and drove home normally, but things have been tense since. We got back to his house, and he was mad at me for overreacting the first time I met his family all together. I got angry and was like, "I'm not the one who decided to do the one thing that I said I'm not comfortable with in the car," just after I asked him not to laugh at me. He said that his dad used the car a lot and it was fine. And I asked him, since we're both rock climbers, would he ever get on a route with his equipment that doesn't work? What if someone says they do it all the time and it's fine? He was like, "Absolutely not, but that's different." And I was like, "It's literally not. Just like we don't know any climbers who would do that, nobody in my field that I know would stay in that car." He got mad and told me to go to sleep. I was drunk. But honestly, today I woke up sober and I stand by what I did. Like, I wasn't comfortable with what was happening, and my boyfriend's family all laughed and started trying to do the one thing I said no to. Like, whatever that thing is, it's messed up. Am I the jerk for yelling at my boyfriend's dad to let me out of the car? Not the jerk. When someone tells me to let them out of my car, I don't hesitate. If it makes you that uncomfortable, then he should have just waited until you weren't in the car. My ex-crush is trying to end my relationship with my girlfriend after all of these years of ignoring me. I've had a crush on this girl since way back when we were in elementary. We were close friends, and I confessed my feelings to her when we were 13. We got together, but things changed in high school. She was always popular, but she became even more so in high school. She started to act cold and distant towards me. She made me feel like I was not that special to her anymore. She probably thought that dating me would ruin her status or something. That's what I felt like when I tried to talk to her in private. She would always be aware of her surroundings, and I wasn't popular. She dated and broke up with 3 popular guys during high school, and I was still not over her. Her third guy in high school left the country because his parents got a job offer abroad. Fast forward to college, and in the first year of college, she dated a new guy, broke up with him for her third one, and I was still single. But my feelings for her started to fade. Since we went to different colleges and not seeing her every day, it helps me to cope with my feelings. I wish it had happened sooner because it really affected me in high school. I was often lost in thought and distracted. I'm not complaining though. I had good friends who hung out with me and were really bros to me. But then, in the second year of college, I realized that I had feelings for this girl who was in my first year class. I never thought of her that way before, but we got to know each other better and better. We started texting, talking, and hanging out. We became official, and I was happy. My ex-crush started to be friendly with me again. She tried to get close to me, and I ignored her. She didn't like that, so she told my girlfriend that I had a crush on her since we were younger. She also lied and said that I was just dating my girlfriend to get back at her or something. My girlfriend was upset and hurt. She didn't believe me when I told her that it was a long time ago and that I only love her now. The more I tried to explain, the more she pushed me away. I hate what my ex-crush did to me. She sabotaged it, and what on earth was this for? Did she rekindle her love for me after all of these years? I don't understand. I never sabotaged her relationship with those guys she dated. I respected her wishes and set the boundaries. How can I fix this? How can I not let my girlfriend break up with me over this? Send your ex-crush a message explaining in no uncertain terms that you are not now and never will be again interested in her, and her behavior towards the woman that you love has cemented that you don't even want to be friends with her. Tell her that you and your new girlfriend, with whom you are deliriously happy, will be blocking her and will be ignoring any further attempts at communication. Then show your new girlfriend the message. I'm sorry this happened to you. It sounds like your ex-crush liked having you around as a fallback option, someone she could always rely on for attention when she wanted it. Somehow, maybe she thought you'd always be there. When she saw you moving on and happy with someone else, she got jealous and tried to sabotage your relationship. What a selfish and narcissistic thing to do. Please block her and tell your current girlfriend what you told us and show her that you blocked the ex-crush. Good luck. I disagree with all these people who are saying that you were her backup plan. That would mean that there was a scenario where she would have dated you. But that isn't your role in her life. Your role is to boost her ego. She never would have dated you, but you've abandoned your role. How dare you stop boosting her ego? She's upset and going to make you pay for that. Update. I decided to follow the majority of what you said and block my ex-crush from my life. I also circled the wagons with our mutual friends and told them what she did. Most of them were supportive and understanding. Some of them were surprised and disappointed in her. A few of them tried to defend her and said she was just confused or jealous. I don't care about her reasons. She crossed the line and she hurt me and my girlfriend. I sent her a final message before blocking her on all social media. I told her that there is no such thing as me and her. I respect our time together as acquaintances when we attended the same school, but nothing more and nothing less. I told her that I love my girlfriend and that she should leave us alone. I also told her that she needs to work on herself and stop being so manipulative and selfish. After I sent her the final message, I took a screenshot of it and sent it to my girlfriend. I wanted to show her that I was serious about cutting off my ex-crush and that I had nothing to hide from her. I also sent a message to my girlfriend and apologized for everything. I told her that I love her more than anything and she is the only one for me. I told her that I blocked my ex-crush and cut off all contact with her. I told her that I understand if she needs time and space to process everything, but I hope that we can work through things together. She replied to me and said she was glad that I blocked my ex. She said that she was hurt by what she did, but she also trusts me and believes me. She said that she loves me too and that she wants to stay with me. She said she needs time to heal, but she's willing to talk to me and see me again. I'm so relieved and happy she didn't break up with me. I love her so much, and I don't want to lose her over something stupid like this. I'm going to do everything I can to make her happy and secure in our relationship. I'm not impressed at all with OP's girlfriend. She doesn't hesitate to believe his ex, doesn't want to listen to his side of the story, and now she needs time to heal? How ridiculous is that? No one actually got hurt in this situation besides OP. She owes him a serious apology, but instead makes this about her and her own insecurities. Maybe there's information missing that would explain why she feels hurt in some way. But if this is all there is, she's well in the wrong. There's a serious lack of self-esteem for all parties involved. Yeah, that got me too. I tentatively want to give her the benefit of the doubt because I remember how much emotional maturity I didn't have at the age of 20, but I'm definitely not impressed. Is no one going to mention the girlfriend? She needs time to heal? From what? Then she has the nerve to say she doesn't believe him, then afterwards fawn over him and say she needs time to heal. OP has horrible taste in women. These two sound pretentious and self-centered as heck. Sometimes I'm really happy to be my age. Being 20's really not all it's cracked up to be. Am I the jerk for telling my sister it's gold-digging money she's borrowing from me? I'm not in the US. I, 33 female, have a sister, Sarah, who's 36. Sarah has always been good at studying and is our parents' pride and joy. She got into a very good university's engineering program on a full scholarship and had a nice job offer upon graduation. We were all proud of her. In comparison, I was a mediocre student. I got into a less prestigious university studying something Sarah said to our parents won't get me a good job, but my parents helped me pay my tuition nevertheless, though I had to work for spending money and other expenses. Through work, I met my now husband. He's from a family of generational wealth with their own business. We married when I graduated, and my sister said she was very disappointed in me for being a gold digger and that we women should not rely on a man's money to get ahead in life. Sarah left the company at 30 to start her own business with her now husband. The business was doing quite well until lockdown. They struggled but managed to keep the business together until this year. Sarah confessed to our parents that she needs a large amount of money to keep her business afloat. My parents suggested that she borrow from me. Now, I do have the amount of money that Sarah needs. My husband heads his family company and gives me spending money every month in addition to a credit card he takes care of. I don't work. My days are spent looking after our two sons, and for a few days a week, keeping his mom company. She's a lovely lady who's still very active and enjoys taking me places. Every time we go out, she always pays the bills, so I have a lot of money saved. Sarah and her husband approached me in private a few days ago. They asked to borrow money from me with a detailed plan on how they would pay me back, though with much lower interest than from a bank in a contract. Here's where I may be the jerk. I wrote them a check, and as I handed it to her, I looked her in the eyes and asked, "You do realize you're borrowing my gold-digging money, right?" Sarah went red in the face before she immediately got up and walked away. Her husband looked a little awkward, but finally took the check and mumbled his thanks and left. Later, my mom called me and said I was being cruel to Sarah during her hard time, that there was no need to humiliate my sister like that. I simply told my mom she never said anything when Sarah called me a gold digger, so she has no say in the matter. Still, I wonder if I was the jerk. Not the jerk. It's not okay for you to rely on your husband's money, but it's okay for your sister to rely on your money, which is both yours and your husband's. She doesn't like being reminded that she judged you for relying on a man, and now she's reliant on that same man. She doesn't even have the excuse of being married to him. She's relying on another woman's man to stay afloat. I don't care about how you choose to live. If you marry for love or money or both or neither. If you have a strong work ethic or drive to succeed, or if you want to coast along and relax. I do care about women judging each other for their choices, but expecting that their choices are held to a different standard because they picked the right path. Don't dish it if you can't take it. Not the jerk. Before she needed your help, she deemed your life choices disappointing. No harm reminding her that she is accepting help from that disappointment, especially if she continued to throw that at you over the years. Part of me wonders if she realized the ironicness of asking for your help, or if she just suddenly felt entitled to help from a family member that was better off. Not the jerk, but you're kind of the jerk for the timing. I know I might get crap for saying this. I mean, you could have said that before handing her the check or after maybe, but saying that during a person's tough time, and especially while handing her the check, you're kind of a jerk. And you're right, your mother doesn't have a say in this, and your sister deserved that. Everyone sucks here. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, blood for blood, an arm for arm. What are you talking about? Am I the jerk for buying my former nanny a house instead of my dad? So I, 30 female, recently bought a house for my former nanny. My entire childhood I was raised by my nanny, Jane, as my mom was the breadwinner and my dad wasn't in the picture at all. Jane attended every after-school activity, graduation, and parent-teacher conference. Jane basically raised me, and I see her as my second mom. My mom employed Jane as a nanny/housekeeper from when I was 2 until I was 28, when my mom passed due to cancer. As a result, I inherited everything. My mom was a successful surgeon with her own practice, and my grandparents left her with a few properties in her home country. I have since rented the properties out, giving me a good rental income. Well, after my mom passed, Jane was there for me. She helped me make all of the funeral arrangements and contact relatives from my mom's home country. After she helped me through this difficult time, I wanted to do something nice to thank Jane. As a birthday gift, I surprised Jane with the deed to a 2-bed, 2-bath house in an area of the country she had always talked about wanting to retire in. Jane tried to decline the gift, saying it was too much, but I told her she was like a second mother to me and that this was the least I could do for her as a thanks for raising me. Well, somehow word got back to my dad that I had bought a house for Jane, and he turned up at my mom's old practice demanding to talk to me. I didn't even know who the man was, as I've seen him less than 20 times my entire life. He claimed to be my father and yelled at me for buying a house for a stranger over someone who is family, and says he and his family of 5 have been struggling financially. He even had the audacity to say that I should buy a house for him and my half-siblings, who I've never even met, because they are my blood family and I owe it to them. I laughed in his face and told him that Jane had been far more involved in my life growing up than he ever had, and that I didn't care if he was struggling financially. Security then escorted him to his car and made sure he left the property. My dad's side of the family have now been trying to reach out through Facebook. Complete strangers who I've never even met, saying that I'm a jerk and that my mom never let him be part of my life. I know this is false, since I remember my mom calling him over the years, asking him to pick me up on the weekends and spend time with me, but he never did. I tried to talk with my friend Aiden, who's 34, male, about this problem, who recently reconnected with his dad, who he hadn't seen since he was 6 due to his dad being incarcerated. Aiden told me that my dad probably had a good reason for leaving and that I'm the jerk because some people don't even have dads. I reminded him I was one of those people. Now he's refusing to talk to me. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Your finances are none of your dad's business, not the jerk. If you don't launch the ship, never stand on the dock with your hand out when it returns. You made another family, all the while ignoring being family to me. Do you even know what color my eyes are or what my favorite color is? You might be father figure to someone else, but never to me. So yeah, your life sucks, pal. Good luck with that. Greed is horrible, and your friend has no depth of background to appreciate what you're going through or to judge you. None. So that friend can shut up. You don't get to have a spoken opinion when you don't know what it's like to be me. Am I the jerk for canceling my niece's trip so I can go on one with my boyfriend? So I, 26 female, initially planned on going with my niece, who's 11, and brother, who's 37, on a trip to her mother's home country during summer vacation. My niece's mother passed when she was less than a year old, and the trip was going to be the first time my niece would be visiting her mother's home country, as well as the second time she gets to see her maternal grandparents since her mother's passing. However, my niece suffers from attachment issues, which cause her to have severe anxiety. As a result, she has panic attacks whenever she goes to unfamiliar places without her dad or I present. Short trips to nearby places are fine with just her dad, but because this trip will be for a month and somewhere far away, that's very different from what she's used to, and I have to be present for the trip to happen. I had agreed to the trip about a year ago under the pretense that it would likely happen in June of this year. Last month, my boyfriend, who's 26, asked me to spend 2 weeks with him and his family in Italy during August. I agreed as it wouldn't interfere with my niece's trip. However, last week my brother told me that he could only get time off for the last 2 weeks of July and first 2 of August during summer vacation, which interfere with a trip to Italy. My boyfriend can't reschedule as it's the only time that works for his family. I asked my brother about moving my niece's trip to sometime during the school year, but she has recitals and events that she can't miss. Originally, I was planning on missing the trip to Italy, but after speaking about it with my boyfriend's sister, she hinted at my boyfriend proposing to me during the trip. My boyfriend and I have been together since we were in high school, and a large reason why we aren't engaged yet is because my niece's dependency on me. He's been more than understanding towards the situation, which would make me feel awful if I delayed his proposal for my niece again. To be honest, I'm also tired of having to put my life on hold for my niece. So I told my brother I couldn't go on the trip with them, which essentially meant that he had to cancel the trip. He was very mad at me, probably the most mad I've seen him since niece was born, and called me a jerk, as well as some other choice words for accepting to go on another trip when I had already agreed to this one. I was taking my niece to therapy this week, and the therapist pulled me aside to tell me how much my decision was hurting my niece. She didn't sound like she was blaming me, but it made me start to rethink my decision. I brought it up with a few friends, and the reactions were mixed. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I had to go back and double check how long it had been since your niece's mom had passed. It might be different if it had been a recent loss, but you can't place your life on hold indefinitely. Reading the title, I thought you'd canceled a scheduled trip for your boyfriend, but you committed to a different time frame with your brother. It's unfortunate that the new time frame doesn't work, but that's not your fault. Your brother has a conflict with the original time, and you have a conflict with the new time. That's just how it goes sometimes. Honestly, it sounds like she needs a new therapist. The therapist should be teaching her coping mechanisms, not trying to shame you into making things easy for her. Again, if it had been a recent loss, then some coddling would be understandable. But this is just too much. My husband has missed 3 out of our 4 kids' births. I want him to quit his job. My husband is amazing. He honestly is. I love him dearly. But oh my goodness. I had our 4th baby 3 days ago, and I did it alone, like the past 2, because he's always being called away to work. He's a firefighter, which is notable, beautiful even. But heck, I really hate his job so much. My kids are 5, 3, 2, and a newborn. My toddlers barely even know their dad. My oldest could care less. Every single family event. Sorry, they need me in. The birth of our 3 out of our 4 kids. His boss didn't give a hoot. With our 3rd, he missed my birth because he was coaching another woman through hers. I am so tired. I'm a single mom. He didn't meet our son until he was 9 hours old, held him once, went back to sleep, and is now back at work. I'm a single mom. Sometimes I fantasize about us being a normal family. 1 birthday party, 1 anniversary, 1 family meal. I've sobbed and begged him to quit, to say no, to just do anything else. But that makes me a selfish jerk, I guess. This is probably postpartum depression. Again, because I'm alone and he's off helping other people. Can't complain because, oh, what he's doing is so amazing. I'm so tired. I'm so sad. I don't know why the heck I thought I could do this again without him. I just want to experience a birth with my husband. What kind of schedule is he working? Firefighters usually have 20 days off in a month, so either everything you have going on just happens to line up with his work schedule, the 24 or 48 hours on, or something else is happening here. Most firefighters have the ability to have a second job if they want one. Could it be that he's actively choosing to leave and is telling you it's his job? My dad was a firefighter for over 20 years and never missed this much. What type of schedule is he on? My dad had 24 hours on, 48 hours off, but I know it's different in some places. Regardless, the job shouldn't take this much time. My dad made it to almost everything we had, even coached some of our sports teams while we were young. There's something else. That's not how being a fireman works. They have schedules, they have regular, even more than normal time off. They have other firemen who work. Ma'am, respectfully, unless your hubby is employed with multiple stations, there's no way he's on duty this much. This type of career field works flexible schedules. Your guy is not on duty 6 hours, 12-hour shifts weekly. No, ma'am. Even if he's the chief of the fire station, he'd work 5 8-hour days. The amount of time you commented he's away for work would create significant burnout and mental issues. Think you need to take a deep dive into your husband's work activities. I'm a cop, so I know I'll be downvoted just for that. But none of you understand how much us first responders actually work, and we aren't paid hourly. We are salary, and we work our butts off for much less than we deserve. My wife divorced me because I worked too much. I also found out she'd been cheating on me with the neighbor since he was emotionally available. Her words, not mine. I worked my butt off year after year so she could stay home and raise our kids, which is not an actual job, no matter what you morons say. And that's how she repaid me. Now I pay over half my monthly salary to her for child support and alimony, and I rarely even get to see my kids since she moved 3 states away. My advice to younger guys out there, don't get married. If I could go back in time, I never would have. It's not worth it. Why is there always at least one of you losers in the comments? Just because you weren't man enough to be a good husband and keep your wife doesn't mean that guys should stop getting married. As a woman who's had an affair myself, I can honestly say that if husbands would actually listen to us and consider our feelings, we would be much less likely to look outside of our marriage for what we need. Hubby and I decided to open our relationship since he works a lot too. And maybe you should have considered something like that with your wife. Instead, you made everything about you. Also, forget you for being a cop. I broke up with my fiance after she asked for an open marriage. How do I get her and our families to leave me alone? I, 27 male, had been with my fiance, 27 female, for 5 years. We had many things in common and I really loved her. I proposed to her 10 months ago and she accepted. Our families were excited for us. They've been a real help with the planning and the financial input. I'm not much of a planner, but even I got caught up with the preparations. But then the conversation, as the title states, took place that made me break up with my fiance, and it's caused an uproar in both our families and mutual friends. We were having dinner, and I asked her if her uncle had gotten back to her about officiating our wedding. She just looked at me with this weird look on her face, and then she asked, what did I think about an open marriage? I was surprised. Call me old school on this mindset, but I believe when you're going to marry a person, you're committing to that person for life, and that there's nobody else in that marriage but you and that person. I told her exactly this, and she said we were still young and she loves me and wants to marry me and eventually have kids, but she hasn't had much experience before our relationship. I asked her what's wrong with that, but she spoke right over me and said she just wondered if I would consider an open marriage. I said no. I just told you how I felt about it, and I got up to leave, and she said, "You haven't even given it a chance. You might change your mind." I just looked at her, and everything I felt for her just died in that very moment. I told her if that's what she wants, then she's more than welcome to go do that with someone else, because me and her were over. She tried to backtrack and say it was just a suggestion, and she didn't actually mean it, but I didn't want to hear it. I went into our spare room and locked the door. She tried opening the door and crying and saying she was sorry and she didn't mean it. I just cried. She eventually stopped knocking. I eventually fell asleep. The next morning I went to work and told a friend what happened and asked if I could stay with him, and he agreed. So that same day I moved out. She was at work when I moved out, and she eventually came home and found my stuff gone, and she blew up my phone. I answered the call and she was crying and saying, what was I doing? I told her that last night I was serious when I said we were done. Her response went from pleading, then to anger when I didn't react. I just hung up on her and blocked her number. It's been a week and she hasn't given up trying to contact me and change my mind, and even got our families involved. They're saying she hadn't cheated on me and it was normal for couples to explore different options in their relationship, and I took it the wrong way. I told them to leave me alone, but they keep coming at me. I don't know what to do. You have every right for non-monogamy to be a deal breaker in your relationship, but given the amount of ethical non-monogamy that is out there getting glorified, it's not crazy to entertain the thought and discuss it with a partner. As long as they respect their partner's no, I don't think bringing it up as a thought experiment needs to result in the nuclear option of ending the relationship. You had a very strong emotional reaction to her suggestion and went nuclear without trying to dig deeper into why she was bringing it up. It's possible she pushed back in that original conversation because she didn't feel heard and clearly wasn't hearing you. Look, marriage will absolutely have moments where someone wants to talk about something the other person has a visceral negative reaction to. You don't end it when that happens, you stick it out and come back to the conversation when emotions have had a chance to cool. If it's over for you, it's over, but it might be worth it for you to try and have a clear-headed conversation and talk things out, if only so you can move on without anger or regrets. Absolutely agree with this comment. I don't understand how you can be with someone for 5 years, want to marry them, and then break up over one conversation where you don't agree. To move out without speaking to her and then block her number as well just shows very unhealthy communication and conflict resolution. How can you say you really love someone and then cut them off because they said one thing you didn't like? Thank you. Bitter men in this thread are hyping up OP like he didn't end a 5-year relationship over a single conversation. What the heck? Hey Reddit boy, have I ever told you that I don't even have 1 ounce of faith left in humanity? I'm right there with you, Karen. I'm just waiting for the comment. My girlfriend refuses to go after her baby daddy for child support because they're friends. I met my girlfriend on Tinder, and we were not exclusive to begin with. We get along great, and I thought we had a future. She got pregnant, and we were kind of excited to start a family. When the baby was born, it was very obviously not mine. I did not sign the birth certificate. I also did not break up with her, but I also told her that I would not be making myself financially responsible for the baby. We had planned for her to take a year off of work to be with the baby. She had already taken her maternity leave. I said she needed to go after the father for child support. She didn't want to because they were friends. I said I understood, but then she had to take full financial responsibility for the kid. I would help her with all of the child rearing, like changing diapers and feedings and the like, but not for paying for any of it. She agreed. She ran through her savings in about 6 months. She talked to me about helping with the baby formula and stuff, and I said no, that wasn't our agreement. She called him and asked for money, and he gave her a few $1,000s to pay for baby stuff, but told her not to contact him again. That is when she understood their friendship. So she went after him for child support. His fiancée found out about the whole thing and is thinking of breaking things off. The child support is enough that the baby will be taken care of and will not affect our finances. He called her crying because we messed up his life. He said that I could easily afford to take care of them and that I'm being a jerk for dragging his life through the mud. She feels terrible about it and blames me for not just stepping up and considering her as a single mom. I love my girlfriend and the baby, and I have no problem raising the baby, but I don't think I should be held financially responsible when the father has resources and tried to evade responsibility. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It's good that you're willing to be a family with your girlfriend and her baby, and according to you, you could afford to support them. But that does not absolve the biological father of responsibility for the maintenance of his kid. And what if, God forbid, something happened to you and you cannot afford it anymore? What happens then? If the biological dad had a few thousand available to give away like that, I'm guessing he can afford to as well. So the ruined part is of his own doing, since he lied to his fiancée and hoped to forget the whole thing. OP, I can afford it. But yes, I think that the biological father has to support his kid. I actually plan to talk to my girlfriend about putting most of the child support into an investment fund for the kid's future, education or what have you. I will support our family, and the kid will have a great nest egg to start life. Not the jerk. He's the father. He should be responsible. However, if she's going through her finances without thinking about her responsibilities and she initially tried to pin the baby on you, is that not a red flag of potential issues that may crop up? Red flags. Proceed with caution, OP. I suspect you're in for a bumpy road ahead. I totally understand this guy fathered this kid and needs to step up, and the way you pressured your girlfriend to go to him, and you're not the jerk for that. But I'm kind of wondering where you're planning to go from here. If you're going to raise the kid as your own, and it sounds like you are, you can't realistically keep up I'm not taking financial responsibility for it in the long run. Even legally speaking, in most countries, if you're dad, for all practical intents and purposes, even if you aren't on paper, you'll be asked to step up if necessary. You're the jerk. You sound just like my ex. He was willing to man up and financially support my twins until he heard through the grapevine that they might not be his. Well, this loser actually demanded a paternity test, and surprise, surprise, he wasn't the father. He flipped when he found out I had cheated on him, and the truth is, yes, I did cheat, but only because he was always trying to control me. If you ask me, controlling men deserve to be cheated on, and I have no regrets for the other guys that I was with. I have no idea which one was the actual father, and he kept trying to make me go after them for child support. Never gonna happen though, because most of them are my guy friends, and I don't want to damage that friendship. I feel so sorry for your girlfriend, and I hope she finds a real man who will step up and be a father to her baby, since you're obviously too selfish and delusional to be an actual man with your fragile little ego. My wife keeps going to the movies with the man who lives next door and makes me babysit. I'm 39, male, my wife, 34, female, and I live in a suburban house with our daughter, who's 10, Emily. Our neighbor next door, 48, male, is Walter. He's a single father with 2 daughters who are 14 and 12. We've been living here for a little more than 2 years. My wife really likes watching scary movies, but I never enjoy them. I get too scared and end up having a bad time, so I prefer to avoid them. Her friends sometimes go with her to the more popular ones, but she also likes older, indies, and foreign horror movies. She has always had a hard time finding people that have this niche interest, and that's why it was such a big deal when we met Walter and found out that he also shares this tendency. They very quickly started to make plans to watch movies together. I was invited to be a part of this, but I refused. I prefer to just stay at home babysitting Emily and Walter's daughters. Sometimes they go to movie theaters, but other times they just stay at Walter's place watching stuff at his home cinema. They usually have to go to another town in order to catch a specific function of some weird movie, so it's normal for them to come back very late. They eventually started doing stuff outside of watching movies, like going out for dinner. Walter invited all of us, including the kids, to go with him to a restaurant that a friend of his owned, but I said no because it was too expensive. I don't like that kind of place because I feel that they're a waste of money, and I didn't think the kids would enjoy it either. I insisted on staying with the kids and let the two of them go be themselves. This has become a regular thing, and it's now, in a way, a good deal for me because Walter pays for my wife's dinner and she can't no longer complain about me not taking her to fancy restaurants. As both their movie and dinner nights had become so common, I've grown a little tired of the burden of constantly babysitting. I talked to my wife and Walter about it, and he explained that he usually does not like leaving his daughters with babysitters. He says he's really comfortable knowing that they're being watched by an experienced father like me instead of some teenager. He nevertheless agreed that it was too much of a load for me and offered to start paying me a standard babysitter fee each time he goes out with my wife. I thought that was a fair approach to the issue, but my wife was fully against it. She says I should not be paid for babysitting my own daughter, nor the daughters of a close friend and our family like Walter. We've been arguing about this, but she insists on this notion, and it's not open to change. She even gets mad every time I talk to her about it. Walter promised me that he will convince her, but he does not seem to have been able to do so either. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk for several reasons, two of which are calling taking care of your own kid babysitting and not really caring about your marriage. Don't be surprised if your wife ends up leaving you for Walter if they're not already having an affair. I'm sorry, OP, but it looks like your wife has a new husband, and somehow you're the babysitter. I kept reading this thinking this must be a joke. You're the jerk for asking for babysitting money, but this whole situation is so bizarre. I think you need to figure out if you want to be married and if she does, because right now it doesn't seem like you are. To clarify, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a friend of the opposite gender who shares a hobby. The issue is, OP is refusing to participate in any aspect of his wife's interests or fill her romantic needs, letting Walter fill the whole vacuum of his neglect. Won't compromise and join them on any of the movies, even infrequently. Won't take his wife to a nice dinner because he thinks treating his wife to something nice occasionally is a waste of money. Insists on staying home when invited to join in non-scary movie activities, then whines about babysitting. Doesn't suggest any alternative group activities that they all might enjoy. So, judging by the content of this post, he's just encouraging his wife to go to Walter for all of her emotional and social needs. No way that could ever backfire. Your wife is dating your neighbor, and you think he should pay you? Oh man, you're the jerk. Walter and your wife might have a common interest, but they've tried to involve you in things outside of that, like going out to eat, and you refused. And now you're complaining about sitting at home and moping and babysitting, which you chose to do? Also ticking the box of taking your wife out for a nice dinner by letting someone else do it? You're the jerk. You're the jerk for basically outsourcing your wife to the neighbor. You don't like scary movies, okay. But to then say that it's great that another man is taking your wife to what is basically dates so you don't have to? The answer is to try to engage in your wife's interests and find stuff you two can do together, not to start taking a salary to watch the kids. You're the jerk. It's not babysitting, it's being a parent. Also, are you aware you're pushing your wife into the arms of another man? You're the jerk, and you're basically asking your wife's boyfriend to pay you so he can date her. My wife commented about me on a Reddit post, and I don't know if I can get over what she said. Today I found a post from my wife. Actually, it was a response to a post. The post was, if you could tell your younger self something from 5 years ago, what would it be? My wife's comment was, don't have a second kid and get divorced. It really broke me reading that. I know we're going through a really rough patch. We both aren't perfect, but that's something that just broke me. It's sad because now I feel nothing. I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm not resentful. I just feel nothing. What do I do? We're already in marriage counseling and single therapy as well. Reddit should really be anonymous. That's kind of the whole point. If she knew he was on Reddit and she posted it on her main account, then she wanted him to find it. Do you want to get divorced? If so, pull the plug. If not, do the work and fix your marriage. OP, I've been trying for months. She's the one fighting back, saying stuff about how she wants to find herself and explore. But after reading that, I don't know if I want to be with her anymore. That's understandable. That would be a gut punch to read. Maybe tell her that you saw it and go from there. Can't really get much worse. OP, I actually did. I told her that she has a week to change my mind and to pray for a miracle. But I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I have to worry about my kids too, not just me. It doesn't sound like she wants to be with you if she's not making an effort to stay with you and posted that. I think giving her an ultimatum just speeds up her exit. Or maybe it will wake her up and realize that this isn't what she actually wants. Update. For all of you who are angry that I gave my wife an ultimatum, I should have said that she had already given me an ultimatum 2 months ago. Not going to go into what hers was. So on to what happened. I did confront her, and that night we had a fight. After going back and forth, I finally asked her what she wanted. This is where she broke down and started crying. She said she didn't want to get divorced, and her comment was impulsive, and she regretted it. She was hurt that I was giving her one-worded responses. She texted me because she was lonely and depressed. I told her I was in the bathroom, and I was sorry she felt like I was ignoring her, but I wasn't. So after a lot of talking and forgiving each other, because I'm not perfect either, and we've both made mistakes in the past, we're not going to get divorced. We are going to work on getting better for each other and for our kids. Our first marriage counseling was yesterday, and I have some big issues I need to take care of to be a better husband. She does too. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're heading in the right direction. I gave her an ultimatum because she gave me one 2 months ago that kept changing. First was she needs to see a change in me, and when she did see that change, it morphed into, well, I need to feel a spark in me, or I'm leaving. Should have mentioned that. By exploring, she wanted to date other men. I was her first in everything, and she feels like she missed out on a lot. I think she said what she said out of spite and being impulsive. She was hurt and angry because I was giving her one-word responses. I was in the middle of going to the bathroom when she was texting me. Update. I'm going to show you guys a text conversation, and I want your opinion. Note, this guy started talking to my wife a month ago. This guy is from the UK, and for context, my wife was telling him how she was really tired of not being able to sleep that night and has bags under her eyes. My wife. It's going boring. I have such giant bags under my eyes. I want to collapse into bed, but after… Guy. That sounds so tiring. I want to be chilling. Come and chill with me. My hubs and both kids would be coming with me. I don't know if you'd want all those visitors. Haha, I mean, I'm sure I can make some sacrifices to make you a little happier. Wow, thanks. I mean, I wouldn't do those things, but that doesn't make me delicate. Okay, maybe delicate is the wrong word then. How about gentle? I mean, that's better, but I could totally handle you. I mean, I'm only one rambunctious American. I don't think you could handle 4. I think I could, honestly. Oh, the bravado of youth. I think you underestimate me. OP, shut this down. This guy's a snake. OP. After a talk, she blocked him. This dude is trying to get with your wife. The bigger question is, why is your wife entertaining conversations like this? OP. She's oblivious when guys flirt with her. She thinks that they're just being nice. You haven't answered the question that was asked by several people. What is the nature of the relationship between your wife and this guy who is obviously trying to get with her? How does she know him? OP. She met him as a friend. She likes talking to people from other cultures and parts of the world. They've known each other for a couple of weeks. She only thought of him as a friend. This marriage is a hot mess. I'm exhausted by your marriage, and I don't even know you guys. Imagine being in it. Can't wait for the divorced update with both sides benefiting from it. That story just made me mad. What a bad marriage. Dang. Am I the jerk for telling my son that his girlfriend is taking advantage of him? My son, Lucas, who's 19, has been dating Maya, who's 19, for a year. Just some background. I'm a single mom, and Lucas' dad is extremely wealthy. Just a minor example of this is that his dad owns the entire block that Lucas lives on. Lucas has a job at his dad's company, making close to $200,000 per year while only working 20 hours a week. Maya is not from a well-off family. She's been on her own since she was 16, and she had just had enough to be okay before she met my son. She refused most of my son's help, but she let him do little things, like help pay for her car repairs and better groceries. Then she got pregnant. Apparently, the first couple of months were very rough, so she had to quit her job. Then her car wasn't safe enough for a baby. She had to move in with him. Due to complications, she lost it at 6 months. She was in and out of the hospital for the first month, but it's been over 7 months now, and she still lives with him, doesn't work, and barely contributes with household chores. I tried to tell Lucas during and after the pregnancy that Maya was milking it. I got pregnant with him when I was Maya's age, and I made it just fine on my own. I still worked, went to school, took care of my apartment, and later raised a kid all on my own. I think Maya saw an opportunity to get out of her old living situation, and she took it. He's always refused to believe me, and the last time I tried to talk some sense into him, he told me if I can't respect Maya, he won't be in contact with me. It's been 2 weeks, and I'm wondering if I should have kept my mouth shut. Maya has done nothing to indicate that she's just after your son's money and would probably be good for your son, as your son seems to have everything handed to him. You're just projecting your own insecurities on a totally innocent person. You're the jerk. Maybe you're the devil. OP. It's been 7 months. There's no reason for her to not be working or helping around the house. Update. A lot has changed in the past 3 months. First, Maya and Lucas moved. I've seen pictures of their house on social media. It's gorgeous. Shortly after they moved, I saw that they are now engaged. I have not been invited to the wedding. I know some of my family members have been invited, but they're not allowed to tell me where or when the wedding is. Between family and social media, I can tell that they're doing very well. My son is finishing his final semester in college. He did dual enrollment starting from sophomore year and graduated high school a semester early. Maya just started a small business, and they got 2 dogs and some chickens. Maya and Lucas posted a pregnancy announcement today. Maya is 14 weeks pregnant. I called Lucas and left a message congratulating him and asking to meet up. I sent Maya a similar message. As of now, it looks like I will not be involved in my grandkid's life. I'd love to know what other stuff the OP is getting up to, because this reads like son goes no contact very quickly. I expect that he's been having issues with his mom like this for a long time. The new fence. A few years ago, I was building a new fence for a friend of mine. I had to remove the old sections that were falling apart, and when I got to the intersection of his back fence and the next door neighbor's back fence, I carefully separated the neighbor's fence from his and proceeded to carry on removing the side sections that went between their 2 properties. My friend had told me that the side section was 100% on his property and that the previous owner, 30 years ago, had deliberately given the next door neighbor's property an extra foot or so to ensure that he was building on his own property without calling for and paying for a survey. The neighbor, Susan, whom I will refer to as Karen for the rest of this story, came running outside screaming at me that I couldn't remove the side fence and it was their property and just what do I think I'm doing? I responded back very calmly that my friend had just told them well in advance that he was going to replace the fence, that he was just going to build it in the same place as the old one, and asked if they were willing to split the costs, to which they declined. No biggie. Karen started screaming at me again, telling me I had no right to do that and that my friend didn't give them proper notice, and that she didn't realize that there wouldn't be anything between their 2 properties to contain their dog. By now, I'm about ready to lose my mind, so I knocked on my friend's back door to let him know what was going on, and that he needed to go talk to Karen, and that I was leaving because I didn't want to do or say anything I would regret, or cause problems with the neighbors for my friend. The entire project got put on hold, pending a property survey that was going to cost $650, and that they demanded my friend pay half of, despite him telling them that the fence was definitely on his property and nothing was going to change with the new fence, and that he was fine with them continuing to have a foot or so of his property so that he didn't have to rock the boat. Fast forward to the following Monday when the surveyor comes out. Turns out the old side fence was not a little on my friend's property, but almost 10 feet onto his property, and the neighbors had built up raised flower beds and done a nice brick retaining wall right up to the fence line that they had spent a lot of money just in materials for. Never mind the time they spent constructing it. Needless to say, my friend was very pleased with this. For the mere price of $325, he was entitled to expand his yard of more than 30 years by about 800 square feet, and Karen and her husband, who happened to be the polar opposite of his wife in personality and was super nice, spent the next week moving their garden, retaining wall, and all of the dirt that was on my friend's property, so that I could build a fence on his side of the actual property line. Then they hired the cheapest contractors they could find to slap up a fence on their side of the property line. They spent almost as much as my friend did on their new fence. I gave my friend the friends and family discount. 3 years later, the last 20 feet or so of their fence is on the ground already because it was such a bad job and it fell over in a moderate windstorm this past spring. My friend's fence is still standing, rock solid, and his dogs are definitely making good use of the extra 800 square feet. My boyfriend disappeared every weekend for the past 3 years, and I just found out that he's been lying to me about it. My boyfriend, who's 27, male, and I, 24, female, have been together for 3 years. We don't live together, but we're close enough to spend a lot of time together. However, it's very rare for us to spend a whole day together. When we have, it's been a weekday where our schedules have just happened to line up, like no work and no class. We have never spent a day on the weekend together. He works as a research assistant while getting his PhD. Every single weekend for the past 3 years we've been together, he insists he has to work. I realize how stupid I've been now, but foolishly I trusted him. I trusted that he had work every single weekend for 3 years. That was until today. I've been studying for finals, and it's the toughest it's ever been, so I was craving some time with him. Just a day where we could kick back and relax with each other. Of course, he says he can't because he's working, and I shut up about it. So today I'm getting antsy anyway, and hoping we could at least spend the evening together. I end up texting him, asking him when he thinks he'll be back, and we can spend the night. I've done this plenty of times before, and he always responds fairly quickly. This time I'm waiting for a while. After 2 hours, I decide to text a work friend of his who's also a research assistant with him. Wouldn't you know it, it turns out they don't have work today. In fact, he informs me in the same text that they rarely ever have work on the weekends. So now I'm sitting here wondering what's going on. I have no idea how to confront him about this. I mean, this has been going on for 3 years. If he's cheating on me, he basically has a second family at this point. But obviously, that's where my mind goes, and I have no clue what else could be happening. Like, is there any possible explanation for this besides cheating? How in the world do I confront him about something he's been doing for 3 years? Since he's doing whatever it is tomorrow, do I just drive over to his place in the morning and wait and then follow him? Has anyone had anything like this happen to them before? Do you spend any holidays together? Celebrate your birthdays together? Have you met his friends or his parents? Do you give each other gifts? Have you had discussions about living together or the future? So many questions that the answers could give a better understanding of your relationship. At this stage, the final exams are what matters the most, and you should try to focus on that. The future ex is a waste of space, and it sucks you had to find out this way. I hope you don't let him impact your professional future. I'm sending all the wishes of success your way. OP, there are so many examples of men leading double lives where they have 2 families. Guess what reason they use to excuse it? Work. That's the cover-up basically every single time. I know it sounds absolutely insane, bonkers, and impossible. That's because to us sane, decent people, it is. But the people capable of lying and deceiving like this aren't like us, and they take advantage of the knowledge that we can't even fathom such a thing. It helps them get away with their lie and keep it going. Think about it. Really, the only plausible explanation that he's away for work literally every single weekend for 3 years is because he's leading a double life. Only a family life with another woman and kids makes sense for such a long-term, habitual pattern. You've tolerated a relationship for years where you don't even spend an entire day together. To him, you're the perfect side piece since you're willing to tolerate that for so long without questioning it or putting your foot down. You're in denial, and I don't blame you. I would be too initially. You know this smells fishy, and it is. Knowing myself, I would get crafty and find a way to discover the truth, get proof, and let the other woman know. Best of luck to you. So many examples of men leading double lives? Gee, maybe you should stop going for the guys who will lie to you and cheat on you. But all guys do that. Yeah, all the ones who look like Brad Pitt. Maybe start giving average-looking dudes a chance. Chill guys who like video games and don't go to the gym every day. Stop friend-zoning us and seeing us as brothers and actually try having a relationship with us. Edit. Call me a nice guy all you want. Every girl that's ever turned me down has gone on to date guys that treated her horribly. Then she'd complain to me about it because we're still friends and expect me to listen to it and help her feel better. As soon as I mentioned that if she were with me, I would never treat you like this, she gets mad, starts ignoring me. Every time. Don't you just love when Reddit commenters go on these long rants about their own lives and it has nothing to do with the story? Am I the jerk for telling my stepmom she's pathetic and doesn't get to boss my mom around? My parents divorced when I, 15 male, was 5 and my sister was 3. For a while, during and post-divorce, my dad was trying really hard to win my mom back. I remember he would use how upset my sister and I were about the divorce. For me, it was hard to go from our family being together to 2 separate homes and families. For my sister, the upheaval was hard for her. She really couldn't get used to bouncing from home to home. Throughout all of that, Mom did her best to shield us, and even though she must have hated my dad's guts for all the stunts he pulled, she kept some photos of him and our family from before up in the house. My sister and I felt reassured seeing them. Even though she didn't remember those times, I think it made her feel a little more okay with how confusing it was, and Dad only made it worse. Dad gave up on them getting back together eventually, and he insisted that everything we had at his house be from him and not Mom, and we could not have photos of Mom in the home. I was 8 when he met my stepmom. I'm not sure how soon she found out that Mom still had photos up of before it became a huge deal for her, and she told my mom she was not allowed to have photos of her man up in the house. My mom remarried when I was 10. We have a few photos of my stepdad's ex-wife at home, and some from when he was married to her and my step-siblings were young. This is especially important to them because their mom is terminally ill with a condition that made her unable to take care of them. I think it's something to do with her brain. There are still photos of Dad at Mom's too. I'm less into it now that I feel worse about what Dad did, but my sister still feels comforted by them, and Mom always says he is still our dad and our family, and she wants it to be as much our home as it is everyone else's who lives there. The wall where these photos are is where Mom takes a lot of our back-to-school photos. My stepmom found out they were still up and went nuts on my mom a few months ago. She told Mom she had to do what she says, etc. It was insane. My mom told her to mind her business, and if she stays out of her house, she doesn't have to see them or worry about them. My stepmom went on a rant about Mom a few days ago, and she was like, "How dare your mom not do what I tell her and take the photos of my husband down?" I told my stepmom she's pathetic for being so bothered that my mom was a good enough mom to accept photos of Dad for our sake and that she doesn't get to boss my mom around. I also told her to leave my mom alone because none of this had anything to do with her. She told me I did not get to speak to her that way. I told her if she thinks she's earning my respect with her crap, then she's even more pathetic than I thought. It's been a rough few days. My dad and stepmom both say I was beyond disrespectful. Am I the jerk? Something tells me that your dad is not the nicest person in the world based on your post. Your mom clearly isn't interested in winning him back and just wanted to give you and your sister some comfort when you were younger. Just like having photos of your mom's husband's ex-wife makes your step-siblings feel better, especially given that their mom is terminal. Your mom sounds like a very secure and kind person who just wants the best for her biological and her stepkids. Your stepmother, on the other hand, not the jerk. Karen stole my cat, so I stole her back. I got Pebbles from a humane society when she was 2 months old. I love her with my whole heart. She's now 5 years old, soon to be 6. 14 months ago, I had to move to an apartment that didn't allow pets in the contract. I had no choice but to rehome Pebbles, and I was heartbroken. But my grandma ended up taking her from me, so it wasn't so bad, because I could visit Pebbles anytime. She was safe in a house, all indoors, and well taken care of. 3 months ago, Grandma passed. And of course, that was hard enough. But on top of that, Pebbles got grabbed without anyone's consulting me and brought to my uncle and aunt's house to live. They put her outside with their other farm cats. I drove out on my day off to see her, and she was looking scared and bedraggled. But they insisted that she was fine. I went home heartbroken and I was angry. Recently, I was able to move into a better apartment that's pet-friendly with a roommate. I asked if I could have Pebbles back, but my aunt said no, that my cousins, who are 15 and 18, have grown attached. But frankly, oh well. So I said, fine, okay. Then last week during work hours, I took off on my lunch break, drove to the farm while they were at work and school, found Pebbles, put her in my car, and drove home to my new apartment. It took them 2 days to even figure out that she was gone. Then, of course, my aunt called me and asked if I had taken Pebbles. I said yes. She started to yell, so I just said, "She's my cat," and I gave her to Grandma for a while, not you, and then I hung up. I think I'm legally in the clear here because I took Pebbles back to the vet I took her to her whole life for a checkup, got her papers up to date, got her microchipped, and put her in my name. But my parents called me and told me that they were disappointed in me, that it was immature to steal Pebbles, and that the girls are apparently heartbroken. I'm sorry my cousins are sad, but I would do it again. Pebbles is my cat, and they weren't taking care of her correctly. I never wanted to give her up anyway. If I'm the jerk, that's fine. Not the jerk. Sounds more like you rescued your cat to me. Yes, putting a cat that's grown up indoors outdoors with other cats who are used to being outdoors is cruel. Cats are territorial and were probably quite hard on your cat. My stepdaughter demands I fund her business. I'm a married woman of 6 years, and I have a stepdaughter who's now 25, and she's graduated college also. She used to live in another state with her grandparents because of her college, so we didn't spend too much time together other than family gatherings and times that she came to stay with us. Now, she's always had a dream of running a cosmetic company or a brand type of thing, and she wanted to start her line of makeup stuff like lip glosses, lip scrubs, and all of that through social media. When my husband told me about it, I was like, great, she should go for it. The problem is, she has absolutely no resources to start this, and I mean money. She never had a proper job, so she doesn't have her own income. I make more money than her father, and he can't give her the proper funding since she needs a lot, and at the same time, it will be a financial toll on him, so he asked me to fund her. I did my research on what she might need, like the materials she would need and shipping company payments, and I discovered that she will need at least £10,000. She even contacted me for help, and I told them I can pay this amount if I either get a percentage of her brand or if I become a long-term investor in it. Or if she just wants my help for short-term, then she can sign a contract that states she'll have to pay me back. They both disagreed, and my husband started attacking me for treating Carla, stepdaughter, like a business partner, and I told him that's literally business that we're getting into. And I told him my offer was actually very generous. Carla told me she will pay me back, but doesn't want to sign any contract, and I told her that her tantrum when she discovered she's not getting free funding is the reason I'd need to have a contract. We had this lengthy conversation, and they ended up not agreeing to my terms, so she didn't go further with her brand. My husband is still mad at me. Then my mother-in-law called me to say that I'm cold-hearted for not helping Carla, and that I involve business in everything. I just don't understand why they're making Carla's lack of financial independence my problem when they can have her work and gain money, then try to move forward with her dreams, instead of asking me to fund her dreams for free. Now they're shifting this as if I don't consider Carla family, because I help my biological daughter's business through my company. And while that's true, my biological daughter and I have an agreement of giving me 10% of the profits, so I don't fund her for free either. Not the jerk. Carla needs to get a job and start earning an income versus expecting to be handed free money to be repaid when she feels like it with absolutely no contract. Given her lack of all-around experience, this is not likely going to work out well for her or anyone who gives her funding. I suspect something between my girlfriend and my friend. We all live together. We're two couples living together. We all attend the same university. The apartment was originally leased by my girlfriend of about 2 years, Alexis, who's 22, female, and our mutual friend, Brooke, who's 22, female. The apartment is huge and expensive. There was originally supposed to be 3 girls living there, but the last one backed out abruptly. They were planning on moving somewhere cheaper, but they had put a lot of work into the apartment and loved it so much they hated the idea of leaving. I offered to move in when my lease was up in May so we could split the rent and utilities 3 ways. I was sleeping over often anyways. Both girls were absolutely ecstatic about the idea. Shortly before I moved in, Brooke started dating my best friend, Derek. This was cool because now both couples got to hang out with their best friends and significant others all at once. It seemed perfect. Derek began sleeping over a lot, and when his parents sold their house and left in October, he temporarily moved in. We haven't really pushed for him to find a new place because splitting everything 4 ways is helping all of us so much. But again, only Alexis and Brooke are on the lease. The apartment owner surprisingly does not mind as long as the rent gets paid, because we're always quiet. There are 3 incidents that made me think something was up. If it weren't for these combined incidents, I would never make an accusation like this because Alexis is such a sweet and shy girl, and Derek has been a brother to me. They don't seem flirty, but as I mentioned before, all 4 of us are very close friends, so we spend a lot of time together. Incident 1. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Brooke and I have early classes, so we're gone by 8 a.m. Derek and Alexis start in the afternoon, so it's not unusual for them to leave together, though they usually take separate cars. One of these days, I decided to wait for Alexis outside of her class so I could surprise her with lunch. I watched everyone shuffle out of the class, but Alexis wasn't with them. I texted her asking where she was, and she replied, "Just got out of class, gonna go home to study." I called her to see if I had just barely missed her or something, and there was no response, which I considered weird because she had just texted me a second ago. She didn't answer until much later, which is also unusual for her. She's one of those girls that's often on her phone. I ran into Brooke later in the day, and she mentioned in passing that Derek had stayed home sick. She was going to bring him soup, blah blah blah. At the time, I didn't think much of it. When I got home later that night, I noticed Alexa's car was in the exact same spot. She usually parks in guest parking because our unit only has 3 spaces. As a result, her car moves a lot. I asked her if she had gone to class, and she got quiet before sheepishly admitting to skipping because she felt the professor sucked at explaining things. But she knows I hate when she skips classes, something that's gotten her grades in trouble before, but she recently started doing better. I kissed her, and I said I trusted her judgment. While I was doing the dishes, she explained how she probably won't skip again because being bored alone in the house was the worst. I laughed and we went back about our business. At night, we went to bed, and as I laid there drifting off, it hit me. She shouldn't have been alone because Derek was homesick, right? She was still up on her phone, so I popped awake and asked her where Derek was today since Brooke had said he was homesick. She seemed startled by the question, but that may have been from me being half asleep to suddenly wide awake with a random question. She said he was here for a bit in the morning, but went to do some errands or something. She wasn't sure. After the other incidents, I realized that the scattered way she answered this question seemed off, but that may just be my imagination. Me and Derek are cool with the dudes in the apartment next to us who are graduates from our university. We don't hang out or anything, but we have the kind of relationship where we make small talk about sports or whatever in the hall and are comfortable asking the other to keep it down without it being awkward. Last Monday, during our break, I was locking up when no one else was at the apartment when I ran into one of the guys from next door. We talked football for a bit, then he mentioned that one of the couples in the apartment is really a fan of hooking up in the morning and that the walls were way too thin. I laughed because Alexis and I usually only did this on weekend mornings when we had the house to ourselves. Brooke and Derek usually spend weekends at her parents' house about an hour and a half away. The more I thought about it later in the day, the more I realized we hadn't done this in the morning in about a month. On the weekends, it had been more towards the evening or not at all. Did he mean on weekdays? My heart sort of dropped. I kind of want to ask him to elaborate, but the conversation ended and I feel like I missed my chance. Plus, it's a weird thing to ask, and I feel like I must be being paranoid. Sunday night, everyone was back in the apartment. I had every intention of speaking to Brooke about the neighbor's comments alone, but before I could, she said something that completely threw my theory off. She told Derek to go get to bed so he wouldn't be tired for work in the morning. What? I knew Derek had a job on campus, but he had always worked the same night shifts. Being as casual as possible, I inquired how long he had been working mornings and when he started. He said he picked up the extra shifts a month ago and worked at 9. I leave at 7:45, so it's possible for me not to have noticed that. I spent the rest of the night trying to figure out whether he was lying about that, whether he still had some mornings here at home, whether Alexis could be seeing someone other than Derek in the mornings, like many of you suggested, or again, if I was just being a paranoid loser. I went to bed feeling emotionally drained and confused. The next morning, I left for class as usual and operated on autopilot. I alternated between thinking I'd run home to check on Alexis and thinking I had way too much work to run around based on a theory that I wasn't even sure about anymore. In the end, I walked out of my first class and straight to my car to go home. In a weird way, I sort of wish I hadn't. When I got to the apartment, Derek's car wasn't there, just Alexis. I walked to the apartment with my heart pounding all sorts of crazy. I don't know what I was expecting. Outside the apartment door, I could immediately hear a guy's voice inside. I heard him talking and laughing, and I saw a feminine mumble replying and giggling back. I've been on this subreddit long enough to see all the different reactions people have to this situation. I never once contemplated what I'd do. I pressed my ear to the door to see if I could make out what they were saying, but I could only make out a word here and there. There was a lot of giggling. Then I heard the sound of Alexis being tickled and shrieking. Maybe I should have waited more. In retrospect, I wish I did, but I couldn't take it. As soon as I started fiddling with my keys, it was dead silent in there. She was hooking up with Mark. I never mentioned Mark in the previous post, but he's one of the guys in the apartment next to us, not the one that tipped me off. He's the only one I never liked. He was a know-it-all, always made inappropriate comments, never thought anything of it. As soon as I opened the door, they both gave me a deer in the headlights look that removed any naive doubt I may have retained that the situation was innocent. I was planning on yelling at them or demanding answers, but, and this is embarrassing, my eyes began to well with tears. I didn't want them to see that, so I said, "Nice, real nice," and bolted back to my car. I heard Alexis yelling my name in the hallway and picked up the pace. I sort of expected her to be chasing me, but by the time I got to my car, there was no one following me. I drove to a park that's near the apartment and sat there in disbelief. My first thought, weirdly enough, was, how is my family going to take this? What the heck am I going to tell them? My family loved Alexis. They joked about our wedding and regularly called her part of the family. Then I started thinking about living arrangements. Our finals end in about 2 weeks. There's no way I can handle moving now. I'm applying to an extremely competitive graduate program, and I can't let anything get in the way of that. Definitely not this cheating jerk. I'm writing this from a friend's house. I explained the situation, he explained it to his parents, and they welcomed me to stay with them. I'm going to have to go back home to get some clothes sometime. I'm planning on doing this during lab period. I know Alexis can't skip tomorrow. It took her an hour or so to start blowing up my phone, but once she did, it didn't stop. She started off asking me to come home so she could explain. Before I even had the chance to respond, she sent another one begging me to come back because she was having an anxiety attack, something I always help her through. Maybe I'm heartless, but all I could think was, good, you earned it. There was a pause, and then she sent, "I don't know why you get so jealous. We were just hanging out." I waited. She sent, "Look, I know it looks super sketchy. Believe me, if I were you, I'd think the same thing. But no, we didn't do anything. He needed advice on his girl problems. You have to believe me." No, I don't. Normally, I would have gotten a weird sense of satisfaction watching a cheater scramble to cover themselves, but my stupid brain just kept replaying all the great times we had together and wondering if she was cheating then too. I want to know when this started, but at the same time, I'm worried it's been going on for longer than the month that I've suspected. I received a text later that night from a number I didn't recognize. It was the nice dude from next door. He said, paraphrasing because it was a long text, that he got my number from Derek. He was extremely sorry for what I was going through and that he would have told me sooner, but he wasn't completely sure. He said he knew his friend was seeing a girl with a boyfriend, but didn't put it together until he learned the girl's name. As many of you suspected, the comment was him trying to tip me off. So yeah, he's bro of the year. I don't think Derek and Brooke know yet. I haven't texted them. I haven't found the words. I know it's going to turn our living arrangement and friendships upside down. I guess I should message them before Alexis paints a different picture. I wonder what the cool neighbor said when he asked for my number. I don't think he told them. He would have said something, right? Unless they took her side. Then I've lost my girlfriend and my friends. My ex-husband just admitted he still loves me, and I have no idea what to do about it. We got married young, 19 and 22, with basically a shotgun wedding. Carried for 8 months, just for it to end in a stillbirth. And he was there for me, and he cared, and it felt like we fell in love after we got married. And things were good. He wasn't controlling, he believed in me, motivated me to do more and more. Go to school, get a degree, become a nurse, all of that. He even paid for a good chunk of it himself, like most of it when he wasn't even making good money yet. He never tried to get me to have a kid again either. He was perfect, and he grew into being perfect, which just made me love him even more. What we had felt so loving and good, and like, wow, I really just stumbled my way into this from a casual friend with benefits to an amazing life and husband. And it stayed that good for a long time. Then I hit 30 and things started to change. It was little things, little comments he'd make about how young we were when we first met, how we went straight into making the marriage work and school and apprenticeships, how we never really got to be young, even though I think 30 is still pretty young. And he started to go out with his friends more, but not like before. Before, they would come over and play video games or barbecue or something and just chill out. But then he started going out. And he just started having fun without me, I guess. And then it got worse. He sat me down and brought up the topic of an open marriage, more freedom for exploration, and everything he couldn't do before me, basically. And I said no. He said he wasn't sure he wanted to continue with what we had, and it all crumbled from there. He just decided that he didn't want to be married anymore. To be clear, he divorced me. He didn't cheat on me, but it was motivated by the fact he wanted to. His words. It was a bad divorce, but honestly, only emotionally. I felt blindsided and horrible, and I begged for him to stay. Even said I would do the open marriage after all, which he declined. He said it wouldn't be real if I didn't want it. And thank goodness he did that, because it's true. Because he was a good person through the whole thing. He just was. He gave me our house that I paid a fraction for because he wanted to make it up to me for wasting my youth or something. Youth became such a big talking point. I don't know. He offered alimony, which I should have taken him up on, but I didn't because I felt bad, and I didn't actually need it. But the point is, he divorced me, blamed me for nothing, and was kind. I couldn't even hate him. He wanted to stay friends. I didn't because I was still in love with him. So we landed on friendly. No blocking, follow each other on social media, no bad words to either side of our family, but we don't talk. Except the twice a year Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas texts. The divorce was final in January of 2019, and I thought that was that. I didn't date throughout 2019 and 2020. I couldn't for obvious reasons. Same for 2021, just focusing on surviving. But I did meet someone in 2022, and we've been dating for almost 2 years in February. It's nice, easy. He's divorced too. Neither of us want to get married again, and it just works. We were even talking about moving in together eventually. And then my ex calls. From his mom's phone, no less. I had stayed close to her, not super, but like a phone call twice a month and sending actual gifts for the holidays. So I picked up with the usual, "Hi Judy, how are you?" And it was him. We hadn't talked in nearly 5 years, and then bam, there you go. Ex-husband suddenly is desperate to see me. He said that we really needed to talk and asked if he could come by. He could even bring his mom if I was uncomfortable with just him. And I said yes, but to bring his mom. Now at this point, full on, I thought one of them was dying. Mostly thought it was him and that he wanted to make amends or something, because nothing else would explain the suddenness. He came over to the house with his mom as promised, but he looked fine. They both did, which made me so much more confused. But I let them in and waited for him to say something. It was the most awkward 45 seconds of my life, until his mom elbowed him and said, "I'm not doing this for another year. Tell her, I'll be in the other room." And she left for the kitchen and left us in the hall, and he just started word vomiting. I don't know what else to call it. Like, I'll type out what he said coherently, but I want to make it clear it did not come out this clean. Being young and dumb didn't matter when I wasn't with him. He thought he'd be happy to have full freedom to do whatever he wanted, and he was for a while. He traveled, met people, dated, but it always felt wrong. And he knew he regretted the divorce years ago, but didn't want to bother me after he broke everything apart. For nothing, apparently. He said his friends were in his ear, always talking about marriage and how it slowed them down, and he listened, despite the fact that I never tried to stop him from doing what he wanted. And he still loved me, and he wanted me back, and he never really stopped. And he would talk about it year after year after year to his family, and his mom told him what I had told her, about the idea of moving in with the boyfriend, and it triggered him. And that's how he ended up on my doorstep. I felt like I was in a movie, except the music didn't swell, and I didn't have the magical moment of the love of my life and I getting back together. I just felt confused and angry, and I told him this was all too much to drop on me out of nowhere and to leave, but I'd call him. So now I'm here, still confused, still angry, but now I have to figure out how to tell my boyfriend about this. I will not be leaving him in the dark. But what the heck, man? If you loved me so much, why did you leave me? Why were you so insistent that you had to be with other people? You know I'm seeing someone. You could have tried this for years. I was single. Why now? I feel so suspicious and weird, and I don't know if I believe him. But at the same time, I still have never loved someone the way I loved him. Is it that insane to think that what we had did matter to him? Is that delusional? Or did he just have a midlife crisis and regrets it? I don't know. I just don't know. Update. Well, the height of the dramatics are over. I think it went as well as it could have, but I told my boyfriend everything that happened. He wasn't happy, but he wasn't mad at me or anything. I think it helped that X's mom had been there and we weren't just alone hanging out. But we talked a lot. Spoiler, we are not breaking up over this. And you know what? I love my boyfriend, and maybe it's not as intense as what I had with my ex-husband, but that took years to get to. It wasn't overnight either. I think it also helped that my boyfriend is divorced too, and when I asked what he would do in my shoes, he had a lot to say. So we both agreed I'm going to see and talk to my ex about it. He said that if it was him, he'd want to tell his ex face to face that it was over. So I texted the ex, and to be clear, I wasn't vague about what was going to happen with him. The direct text, which my boyfriend saw, read, "Hey, obviously we need to talk about everything that happened the other day, but I want to be clear that we won't be getting back together no matter how the conversation goes. Knowing that, do you still want to see me? And he did. So we set up a time and place and public. And again, boyfriend is aware of all of this and he's fine with it. But he did want to come with me. Not like inside where we were meeting, but he drove me over and waited in the car. And I know that could sound weird or bad, but I feel like it makes sense. He's being so calm and collected about the whole thing, I think he just wants to stay in the loop, so not a red flag to me. Anyway, I went and we met up at a park, with boyfriend having direct eye line to the bench we were on, and we talked. It was a lot, of course. I'd always have love for him, but the window to that life closed years ago. He cried and apologized for crying, and it hurt a lot to see, and I felt so bad. I don't want to sound awful or like I don't take my relationship seriously, but for a second there, I just wanted to kiss him and tell him everything would be okay. But I didn't because that would be dumb, and it's time to move on. But the talk was hard, and I'm a little worried he's hanging on to some hope because it ended on a weird note. He asked if things would be different if I was single, which, obviously, I feel like he thought that question made some kind of point that I'm not seeing. I told him the truth, that yeah, it would be. That my boyfriend was the top reason why I wasn't going to be exploring this. He asked what could happen if we ever broke up, and I said that wasn't really a healthy road to go down, but I swear that made him perk up a little. I don't know, maybe he took it wrong. Maybe I'm reading into it wrong. But I don't think I have to worry about him pinning away from me, considering the circumstances of why we aren't together. I gave him a hug before leaving, and that was that. It's still over. Obviously, I told my boyfriend everything, even the weirdness at the end, which he didn't love. But he was fine with me keeping him unblocked. But did say he wanted to be told if he ever reached out again, which is completely fine with me. Like the code to my phone is open, he's welcome in anytime, and I think that helped a lot. I don't know, he was so mature about the whole thing. It was really eye-opening to how much I appreciate what we have. He's very different from my ex, more reserved and quiet, but sweet, and he can still communicate. He just chooses his words and actions very carefully, and that's the kind of thing I need. Stability. I deserve that. I'm still a little worried about the ex though, considering everything I learned and how it ended. But I did my part. I'm not going to cut either of them off, yet, because they really are good people. There is only so much I can write off in a Reddit story, but I don't hate him for a reason, even though he emotionally did me over bad. And especially his mom, she's an angel, and I think after this she won't bring it up again. And if he starts popping up or something from her end, then I'll do the hard work to cut her off too. But that's it. It wasn't a big fairy tale ending that I had dreamed of, but the nice quiet life I made for myself is still intact. I think some people just have an idealized version of what a certain age is supposed to be like, and some people just panic when they start looking so far ahead or back. I don't know which of the two the ex-husband is, but he managed to self-sabotage very well. Peer pressure. OP's ex listened to his friends and decided being single again would bring him lots of fun and happiness. He learned the hard way that there's more to life than drinking and hooking up. I'm with OP. Her boyfriend sounds like a keeper. My boyfriend introduced me to his parents after a year, and I'm disappointed. I'm 23 female, and my boyfriend, who's 26, we've been together for a year now, and he finally introduced me to his parents. He first told his parents about me just over a month ago, but now I've met them, and I'm disillusioned with the relationship, and realized I've been mothering him all along for nothing in return. My boyfriend messages me late the night before that he's going out clubbing. Tuesday night, he usually goes out clubbing twice a week and doesn't bother giving me a heads up. But he says he won't be going hard. Obviously, I'm disappointed, but not surprised, yet I know there's nothing I can do. The following morning, I check my socials and I see pictures of him and his friends posted at 4 a.m. of them at an afters. So much for not going hard. I don't hear from him, so I shoot him a, "What's the plan?" He responds with, "Grab a coffee somewhere and have a wander, or maybe we can go get a meal," and ends up asking me where I want to go. Now I'm getting frustrated because he had a whole month to organize this. By this point, I've already done a few hours of errands. I've done my hair, makeup, I go to a nail appointment for a fresh set, and on my way to town, I pick up a bouquet for his mother. As I'm walking up to my boyfriend and his parents, I can't believe it. There I am in a silk dress with my hair and makeup done, and there my boyfriend is, hungover, wearing the same dirty outfit he wore to the club the night before. His mother makes a comment that she practically had to drag him out of bed this morning because he still hadn't gotten up by the time they had arrived. My boyfriend doesn't have a clue what the plan is. He decides Weatherspoons is the best idea, UK chain pub. In Weatherspoons, you order on a mobile app. My boyfriend orders his parents' meals and pays for all three. To my surprise, I have to order and pay for my own food and drink separately. That aside, I am celiac, and the menu in this pub isn't very allergen-friendly. At the time, his father makes a comment about how small the portion sizes of their burgers are, and my boyfriend suggests we go to another chain pub around the corner after this. But my boyfriend took me there once for a meal, and the only gluten-free celiac-safe option they had was a side of mashed potato. That's seriously it. It really upset me that he raved about how good the food was at that place and wanted to bring us all there next when he knew exactly how upset the experience made me. I'm not sure how he forgot, so I sat quietly, wanting the ground to swallow me whole. After the meal, we go to an arcade and had a lovely time. His parents are amazing folks who I'm honored to get to know, especially as his mother is battling cancer, and it was very important to me that I meet her at some point. Overall, I'm left conflicted and confused. I have so many questions. He's 26, and I feel like it's ridiculous that as a 23-year-old, I have to tell him to dress nicely, or that he didn't bother to make plans and tried to make me sort something out the morning of. This man has never once paid for my meal, let alone organized a proper date that isn't buying him a Lego set from a toy store. I feel so dumb for maybe expecting a dinner reservation or a trip to a nice cafe, or at least for him to pay for my meal this time, let alone remember that I'm celiac. He is a career chef. It's not hard. A side note, I'm not mad he went clubbing. I'm just confused as it was objectively a bad decision to be hungover when introducing his parents to his girlfriend of 1 year. I know that's not too much to ask. Anyways, what should I do? I feel rotten as this whole meeting has disillusioned me. This felt like the last straw for his low effort and lack of common sense. I realize now he's incapable of making these adult decisions and directing himself properly. He's still battling dumb teenager impulses as a nearly 27-year-old man that has lived by himself since he was 18. This isn't the sort of thing that will get better. But I'm stuck in the guilt of having met his terminally ill mother. If we break up, I'd feel terrible if she passed soon after, and I'm not sure how to navigate this. Sick and tired of holding on to a rope that it will get better. Please help. I'm at a loss, and I don't know where to start. You've been dating him for a year. Did you really expect him to be a different person when his parents were there? Which would actually be worse, by the way. This is who he is. He isn't going to magically become someone else. He might grow up someday, but how long are you planning to sit around and wait for that to happen?
My fiancé sold the expensive gift I got her. I, 28 male, and my fiancé, 29 female, have been together for 3 years. There are many things that I love and adore about my fiancé. She does have expensive taste and works to afford most of her clothes and jewelry. I work in IT for a state government agency. She works in her family's company and does work part-time. We equally pay for the bills, rent, and essentials. We are not planning on having an expensive wedding as we'd much rather save money to use on our honeymoon trip. My fiance's birthday was last weekend, and she has been asking me about this bracelet that will complete her set. The bracelet cost about $300, and I went to the store to purchase it for her. I bought her a nice card and gift wrapped the bracelet. We did a small celebration with a few of her friends, and she was very excited to receive the bracelet. She put it on and started showing it to her friends. I was browsing the marketplace when I saw the bracelet being sold for a little more. When I went to check the listing, she listed the bracelet for $500. I did confront her about the listing, and she got angry with me. She thinks that I was in the wrong for stalking her seller profile when I saw the listing appear when I refreshed the page. Am I the jerk for being mad at my fiancé for selling an expensive gift? So she just got this item, which she had asked for to complete her set, and then turns around and immediately sells it? Wow, I'd be upset too. And yes, if you are linked to someone on a marketplace site, their stuff does show up for you to view. Not the jerk for being mad. Feelings are feelings. Her immediately accusing her partner of stalking her by viewing a page available to the public proves she knows it's wrong. Not the jerk. Well, if you choose to stay with her, you know only to give her unprofitable stuff, gift cards, personalized or engraved items, experiences, or cash. Not the jerk, because it honestly sounds like she asked for it just to sell it. She told you she needed it to complete a set, but then sells it single? She's not telling you the whole story here. Not the jerk. Normally, I would say that once a gift is received, it's up to the recipient to do what they want with it. However, in this case, it's really odd as you had just given it to her and she asked you for it. I could understand selling something if it wasn't to your taste. It would also be understandable if she said she wanted it specifically because she knew she could flip it for a profit. Instead, she's accusing you of stalking her. Clearly, she's hiding something from you, which is concerning. If there was a simple answer, she wouldn't be trying to turn this around and shift blame. Something is up, and you really need to talk it out with her, especially if this is atypical behavior on her part. Ex-boyfriend insists I play a game he assumes he's better at. I complied. Every once in a while, I think about this story while I'm idly playing Sudoku on my phone, and it makes me smile. I realized it's perfect malicious compliance / petty revenge material. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but some background is needed. A few years ago, when I was in grad school, I dated a man who was several years older than me who had just finished his master's at the same school, completely different program, but both in the realm of STEM, and started a company based on that work. He seemed to have a chip on his shoulder about the fact that he went back to school in his late 20s and the fact that I was in a PhD program. I need to emphasize that I did not think I was better or smarter than him in any way, and I thought, and still think, he is incredibly smart and his company does fascinating work. But he still projected this inferiority complex on me, and it was one of the many things that soured our relationship. He was obsessed with feeling smarter than me and bringing me down a peg. The relationship ran its course within a year, and the breakup was messy. But he insisted on remaining friends despite a lot of obvious tension between us. One day, he asked me to help him pick up a moving truck he needed for work, and I agreed. But when I got in the car, we were kind of quiet for a couple minutes. So I pulled out my phone and finished the Sudoku game I had up on my browser. For some context, I am incredibly good at Sudoku relative to most people. This is because I obsessively solved Sudoku puzzles as a kid and just had a big book of them to solve on long bus rides to school, and it's still my go-to game to play while waiting in line, going to the bathroom, etc. I don't really correlate this with intelligence. My brain is just trained to recognize the patterns, and solving them is soothing. He looked over and saw I was playing and asked what app I played on. I said I just play on a certain website I like, and then when he asked why I don't use a Sudoku app, I tried to be as neutral as possible in my response and said that the website had a nice spread of difficulty and that every app I tried had either been all too easy or too hard. Admittedly, it's almost always too easy, but because of aforementioned inferiority complex, I was hedging this on purpose. He had a kind of, "Oh, really?" response and insisted I try the app he has on his phone because he was sure I would find it hard. So I maliciously complied. I opened up the hardest setting of the puzzle in his app and solved it in about a minute, beating the record on his phone by at least a minute and a half. I showed it to him and he seemed alarmed and basically said I got lucky. So I played several more times so that my times flooded the fastest times list until his were all gone. His shock and frustration at this was satisfying on its own, but many months later, when I had long forgotten about it, he randomly sent me a screenshot of his puzzle in that app with a faster time, except it was for the easiest puzzle setting. So, of course, to be petty, I immediately downloaded the app, played on the easiest setting, beat his time by a significant margin again, and sent a screenshot. Was this mean? Maybe. Was it satisfying? Yes.
Imagine spending 8 years with the love of your life. You propose, and they reject you. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.